So, welcome to the final first round qualifiers of Tupo's Tournament 2. We are gonna have the Chilean plebs, as they selected this team name for themselves. Noisick and Whitecourt, two of the better Chilean players out there. The other side, FeAge and Alive with the ancient Briar players. They are long time Brazilian players of the community. Forest Pond and Regicide Fortress will be their home maps, so they're going for closed maps. Other side, Eruption, Team Acropolis, more open maps for our Chilean players. And of course, Arabia is gonna be the first game. Chinese, Vikings, global bands will have Khmer, Lithuanians, Ethiopians, Mayans, Cumans. For the first pool of Chileans, Goths, Teutons, Sicilians, Byzantines, and Burgundians, so they're getting both of those new civilizations in there for themselves. Other side, Britons, Franks, Mongols, Tatars, Malay, and Turks. Indians, Spanish, Burmese, and Portuguese coming in here for the second pool of the BR Ancients. With that, we can jump into game number 1 over here. Noisick and Whitecourt versus FeAge and Alive for a final spot in the round of 16s of the qualifiers in Tupo's 2. We're going to have Noisick coming in here with Ethiopians in blue. And to the south, it's going to be Burgundians for Whitecourt in green. So it's a fairly decent combination of civs. You got Burgundians, Ethiopians, that's solid for Arabia for a 2v2. Malay for FeAge in yellow. And we are seeing KGB Braven, but he used to be known as Alive on Woobly. So that's his legacy name. And I think to this day he is the highest rated Woobly player, although that partially comes from the fact that the pros aren't playing on Woobly anymore, but he has grinded himself up to the highest rank before coming to Definitive Edition. So with that, we're gonna have a Braven in red as Turks and Malay for FeAge in yellow. I like the civilizations of Noisick and Whitecourt a lot better. They feel just generally very good Arabia civs. Burgundians are completely alright as your scouts into Knight civilization, and then or early Cavalier in Castle Age feels like a solid way of playing this one. Whereas for Turks, you're relying very heavily on your feudal age pressure and the scouts being able to kill the opponent's archers, because after that you can have good knights, but you definitely don't want to bring this into post-imperial where you just don't have paladins working for you. So Turks is a good mid-game cavalry civilization, not so great once you get to Imperial Age. So with that, we're gonna have a quite vulnerable base for Noisick, but his berries and gold being on the front is not something I like. For our green player, Whitecourt, we do have gold at the back. We have a fairly vulnerable right side for FeAge over here, not so vulnerable on the left side. And finally, we got Braven with what is a relatively defendable map, even though the gold mine is very ugly overall. So, the Elefantarino coming in here for FeAge as the first one, and he could actually use that Voyager to push that deer towards the TC. His deer is definitely pushable, but not easy for him to push, and we already have one deer beneath the town center. So, relatively passive gameplay so far. We have Whitecourt coming in for some early wars, pushing in some deer as well. You could definitely consider an early double bit axe, especially if you push in the deer. You could do 21 pop scouts with double bit axe in Dark Age, and that would be a fairly reasonable, I think, trade-off for your later feudal age. So, we're gonna have, on the north, Noisick as Ethiopians, goes for the berries right now, 4 would no surprise about that. What's a little bit more surprising is that he didn't push in any of his deer, which probably can be attributed to the fact that he's scouting his opponent very heavily, maybe thinking about a drush If it's coming, it's gonna come with, I think, this Voyager over here or the next one. So, we'll have a Barax up for FeAge as well. Let's see if he wants to go for a Drush. Indeed, that's a Drush from our yellow player. And with that, we are gonna have an answer to it. Yes, there's an answer to it. So Noisick is gonna Drush as well. The two Drushes should just cancel each other at the end. Fast Feudal coming in here for Braven. He's gonna be at 19 pop. That's very, very tight as a build. It was very, very hunt heavy, as you see. So he's almost finished with the second elephant, but I think he pushed in all of his neutral huntables. So at the end, the deer being pushed in means that he can do 19 pop scouts. Still, it's a little tight to my taste. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to afford a stable and the Barax. In fact, you see that he's free on wood still. I feel like this is a super fast feudal, but into what? He's not going to have a Barax or a stable anytime soon. Well, he might have a Barax, but not a stable. That's for sure. So, with that, it is FeAge bumping into line over here, loses some HP on his Drush. It looks like Noisick actually cancelled his Drush here, so he's got nothing coming in for him. Nice walls around the berries just to make sure that Drush can't hit it. But there is Vogers on the berries. Okay, he didn't cancel the Drush, he actually went for 2 militias. He even collected Tangled for the third one, but he didn't queue it up, so right now he's only on 2 militias. Braven is known as alive in the community for a long time, so that's why you might not have encountered his name, but Alive was a fairly high-rated Brazilian player, long-time player as well. I think he's been playing for a huge amount of time over there. With that, there is gonna be the Huntables being lamed over here by FeAge, which means that that's gonna be no option anymore for Noisick. And he's also behind by 1 militia, just getting the 3rd militia out right now. He's probably gonna pull 1 more Voyager to actually take this fight. There is 1 more Ostrich. And according to chat, indeed, Alive has been playing for like 15 years or so. This is why their team name is BR Ancients, because there's FeAge, who has been a long time player, and there is also Alive. Both of these have been playing this game for a while now. That being said, they are probably a little bit rusty, because neither of them has been super active in competitive scene. Whereas for Whitecourt+Noisick, they have been playing in quite a lot of medium-sized tournaments, trying to qualify for events like KOTD, for example. Generally good players, but nothing exceptional about them in their gameplay. So, with that, we're gonna have the Voes up for Braven. Goes for the scouts just now. He already has 1 out. That's the starting scout, and he's got 1 more scout out. But we have a full Voes for Whitecourt in green. He's getting out the Burgundian scouts. Whereas Noisick is actually going for a Drush FC here. This is a super ballsy Drush FC, I have to say. I'm just checking this out. He lost 2 of his Huntables, but this is a Novo Drush FC. Really, really, really ambitious. That being said, FeAge is going for a Drush into Archers. And we are gonna have Archers coming in here for him soon. Because he went Drush Archers, his Archers are later. And that means that these Vogers aren't getting pushed. If this was a Man-at-Arms Archers, you would actually have a much easier time pushing away those Vogers from the gold. There's the range for a Noisick for a Blacksmith. And this is actually very, very nice Drush FC, even for Noisick. I feel like this that just didn't go punished. Because at the end of the day, these 2 buildings up, and Noisick is gonna have a pretty nice 27 plus 2 Drush FC. That's an excellent situation compared to the fact that he lost 2 of his Huntables, and he also got Drushed really badly. So right now he's going to use that militia to do some scouting around the opponent's base. There is going to be some archers coming in here. FeAge is even opening up the walls so he can actually push in his final Ostrich, which is a nice thing to do. At this point, we got Horse Color for Braven, or Alive, if you want to put it that way. Noisick is without any eco upgrades, obviously. because he is going up to Castle Age over here. We'll just get Bidax for himself. And it looks like now Whitecourt will actually try to get into the base of FeAge, but everybody is walled with the exception of Noisick. So Noisick is the only one that could really be exposed to scouts. He's gonna make some spearmen though, because Turkish Light Cav already have 3 Pierce Armor, so your archers won't really kill them, and you have to be very careful not to lose your early archers with the Drush FC to the Turkish Light Cav, or even just the scouts, because you won't have a lot of archers, so those scouts will actually do quite a lot of damage even against crossbows, especially if the crossbows don't have Botkin. I think Noisick will be able to afford Botkin with the Ethiopian bonus of getting some resources in Castle Age, because he can already afford crossbows, so he should have no trouble with Botkin. But so far, this is a fairly passive game. It looks like both cavalry players will just head straight towards Castle Age over here. So, double range coming in here for Noisick. And at the end of the day, Whitecourt is gonna go up to Castle Age in a matter of moments as well. He didn't really use the Burgundian bonus at all so far. So, not researching any technologies eco-wise from Castle Age, not even Boso. I feel like in this case it's better to just click up as fast as possible, and now when you can afford it you will click Boso, so you will still get it a little bit faster. That's your best use of Burgundians in here. Second TC coming in here for Noisick. He's already moving out with the crossbows, but as I said, this is the time where you have to be careful not to lose those crossbows to the Turkish soon to be light cav. So it seems like they will be heading towards Braven, because what they want to make sure is that they hit the cavalry player. If they hit the archers player, the cavalry player is much faster moving to clean it up, so they're heading towards the cavalry player. Right now FeAge is just massing archers back at home. He is actually going to be the fastest player to Castle Age amongst the players that didn't go for an FC, because he's melee. So being able to get up to Castle Age here is going to be a nice advantage for him. The problem is that his archers will be heavily mispositioned, so by the time they get in here, this could be troublesome for Braven. So Noisick moves in with the crossbows, tries to pick off a couple of villagers, will be unsuccessful so far. We got more crossbows for Noisick over here. I like the double layer walls from Braven. You see he's adding houses behind as well. This isn't going to be enough though. If they break through here, they can walk all the way. Actually, they can. This is logged. So Braven is doing a very, very nice job defending so far. Might even be an overreaction to go for double layer palisades, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And remember that his scouts will actually turn to light cav. In fact, what he should do is make a couple more scouts, because you want to get like 6, 7, 8 light cav in the early Castle Age, so you can pick up a couple of kills on those crossbows. Other side, we got some crossbows moving in from FeAge. He doesn't have Botkin though, just getting that in right now. His opponent has Ethiopian crossbows holding hill with Botkin, so that's not really going to be an easy fight for him. And let's see, now it's light cav, so they could actually try jumping on these crossbows, but for now it's gonna be just knights with double armor. Nothing surprising. What's actually better though here is that here comes Whitecourt with the early Cavalier. The Burgundians, definitely good for that as well. He's gonna be on 2 TCs, and now the crossbows are actually hitting the wood line of FeAge here. First villager gets picked off over here. The reason why Noisick actually started moving that way is because he saw that FeAge's army was around here, so he wanted to make sure that, okay, if my opponent's army is here, I can actually hit the back of his base, and that's exactly what happened. Now knights are out, but soon there will be Cavalier over here for Whitecourt. Obviously no bloodlines, but that still means 2 extra damage over knights. So a Cavalier is basically worth a +2/+2 knight, which is technically comparable a little bit to Magyars at this stage of the game. So with that, Ballistics is now coming in here for FeAge, and Noisick is still playing wide open, and one thing that we haven't talked about is that his crossbows are heavily split up. So a couple of crossbows over here, it's easy to clean up. A couple of crossbows over here, couple here, instead of having one big mass. And he has to be careful not to get his crossbows intercepted by cavalry, because just 2 light cav clean this up very, very easily from Turks. So I don't necessarily like how much he's splitting his armies, because that could be very concerning for him in the long run. Villager count looking pretty close so far. Second TC coming in here for Braven on that wood line and the gold. Knights are now coming in, and this is the moment when they will actually start assaulting the base of Noisick. Goes for 3 TC play right now, 2 TCs for a Whitecourt. So, with that, we are gonna have a big fight over here, as the Cavaliers seem to be carrying the fight more or less. That extra 2 attack come in clutch. So with that, this is a cleanup for the Chileans. So nice move over there from them. Ethiopian crossbows plus the Cavalier, overall better unit quality for them right now. And the score is still switching back and forth, so this is still a very, very balanced game over here. But at this very moment, we're gonna have 3 TCs for Noisick, 2 for Whitecourt, and we'll have 2 each for the players on the warm color team. We're gonna have the Cavalier now starting to push up though, and our yellow crossbows are super exposed now to Cavaliers, so you gotta be careful with those. You only have 9 crossbows on the field, 6 of them separated from the others, so this is the time when the Cavalier can really start cleaning those up. Noisick doesn't have an awful lot of blue crossbows either, so that's a good scenario for FeAge. But with that, here come the Knights, a couple of camos mixed in as well, and because there is no crossbows, the camos will actually be a pretty useful unit over here. And this is a completely good example of the complementary play that you need to do in 2v2s. If you don't have enough crossbows, your teammate's cavalry is just gonna get killed by camels. There's gonna be some more crossbows coming in, but that crossbow number is very disappointing right now from Noisick. And that could soon turn into massive problems over here. FeAge and Braven now starting to push up over there. Knights have +2/+2, camos also have +2 defense. And I feel like all that our red player needs to do to be very competitive in this game against those Cavaliers is to get at least 1 attack upgrade. Because then his Knights are actually going to be comparable to those Cavalier. Right now there is +2 attack basically compared to the Knights. Now if you look at those Cavalier, many of them are actually heavily damaged, so you got to be careful with those. A Cavalier picking off some straggler archers, so that's definitely a disaster for a yellow player over here. The second TC, it's actually the third one now, over here on the left side, coming in. And with that, 3 TCs coming in for Noisick, 3 TCs as well, as I said, for Whitecourt, whereas their opponents are on 2 and 3 TCs respectively, but Whitecourt's team is now taking over massively in terms of villager count. If you take a look at this, 141 versus 117, so the eco expansion of the Brazilians isn't necessarily amazing, and they are slowly falling behind in terms of army numbers. So, with that, we are gonna have FeAge and Braven coming in here with the push, but that's a lot of Cavalier behind. The Cavalier are still lacking in the +2 attack, but it's 13 attack overall compared to Knights. They don't have any attack upgrades. And when there is enough crossbows here for Noisick, he's gonna start picking off those camels. Goes for Thumbring as well with Ethiopians. So those will be almost fully upgraded crossbows. They won't actually have the defense upgrade on them just yet. So with that, there is going to be +1 defense now for Noisick. He's just waiting until he's getting that, and then he will try to take this fight over here. They don't need to rush, they have a 30 villagers lead right now. So with that, you are gonna have the fight being taken now. They're sort of poking and probing right now, but as I said, the problem for the Brazilians is that they have to win this game before Imperial. They have to do it. Because if they don't win this before Imperial, they will just get clapped by Paladin and Arbalest. And yeah, you can go for camels against the Paladin, but no matter what the Turks do, they can't fight Paladin Arbalest over here. You need actual heavy cavalry. In this one, here's the big fight. But the thing is that the Camels aren't really fighting the Cavalier, and this by numbers should be enough for Braven. Only 9 Cavaliers on the field. The Crossbows need to focus down the remaining Camels, and numbers are actually very, very good here for Braven, so they're actually winning this fight. They are winning this fight over here. Still 20 Knights and 5 Camels on the field. It's raw numbers, apparently, that are winning this one. Because the quality is heavily on the side of Whitecourt+Noisick, and most of the Camels weren't even beating up the Cavaliers, so I would have thought that this is a much better fight for Noisick and Whitecourt, but now there is no crossbows anywhere, basically, from Noisick, and there is already FeAge coming in with some more crossbows on the other side, so this means that Noisick either defends against those or helps his teammate, and now, look at this. No TC on that gold mine, which means villagers will start going down. It's full-on Castle Age pressure, and FeAge is actually going to Imperial with Melee, and Melee even reach Imperial super fast. FeAge is back, boys, and the Brazilians are looking for the competitive scene. Once again, this is not necessarily a great fight when you are trying to upgrade those units to Arbalests, but I feel like now the villager discrepancy isn't that big, especially considering that FeAge will be in Imperial, gets Stumbling just now for himself. And when he does that, Arbalest Bombard Cannon could definitely be something to consider on this side, or just flat out Arbalest and combine the two armies with the Cavalry and the Arbalest over here and start pushing Noisick's forces over here on the left. So, free TC still for Whitecourt, but he's far away from Imperial. Noisick will click up just now, but that's going to take 3 minutes until he reaches Imperial. So that's the main concern. Arbalest coming in here. Interesting is the thing that he goes for +2 defense first and now cancels it as he's going into Imperial. And no Bracer. No Bracer just yet for FeAge. He can't really afford Bracer right now, so that's a bit of an issue over there. That being said, now is Bracer Arbalest coming in, and it's still quite a lot of Knights on the field. Many of them are weak though, so if you take a look at overall this Cavalry, it's a somewhat underwhelming HP on many of those Knights, and they don't even have +2 attack. If you want to go for a full Castle Age commitment, then you gotta go for +2 attack as well, I believe, over here. As those Arbs will now start pushing in. Villager count equalizing, but Imperial Age on the way for Noisick as well. And he still has 29 crossbows on the field that could be upgraded to Arbs when he reaches Imperial, and there's gonna be a lot of Cavalier as well from Whitecourt. And with that, if they get a surround on those Arbalests, this is actually gonna be an okay engagement for them. They don't have the +4 defense, that's the biggest problem, so Arbalest will still be okay against those Castle Age Cavaliers, but still, at least they're slowing this one down to a point where at least Noisick is gonna have the time to get into Imperial and get the Ethiopian Arbs with all their upgrades. There is Imperial Age coming in though for Braven. The question is, what is he gonna do? Turks do have Cavalry, I believe. They are definitely lacking Paladin, but Paladin isn't really a thing for Whitecourt either right now. So this could still work well for the Brazilians, especially now that they're picking off some of the archers over there. Imperial Age still 40 seconds away, and now there's Capped Rams pushing. So I feel like, yeah, Noisick and Whitecourt are holding this, but how long? That's the question. Rams on the way. Look at this, 2 Arbs could actually deny a gold spot like that. That would be an absolutely beautiful situation. Microed Cavalry a little bit by Braven over here, almost allowed the Cavalier to jump on the Arbs. And one thing that FeAge doesn't have is Arbalest numbers. He's still actually sending Arbs. Now it's 4 ranges, but some of them are not producing. So Imperial Age now coming in for Whitecourt as the last player. Rams knocking on the walls. The Arbalest numbers are not really amazing here though. 28 Arbs, and now it's Arbs as well for Noisick. So Noisick actually got the chance to get a couple of Arbs for the field himself. And with that, we're gonna have Whitecourt waiting for his own imp as well, so that he can actually unleash the early Paladin of Burgundians. The biggest problem with that is that you still need to wait about 2.5 minutes until you actually get the Paladin upgrade. It's cheap and you can start immediately, but still takes 2.5 minutes. And if you combine this, by the time he reaches Imperial, his opponent is gonna get Cavalier. So there will be a good window for FeAge and Braven to start pushing this one, especially if there's even heavy camos in the party. And oh boy, those Cavalier are actually launching a counterattack, but there is camels, and all the camels will be sent to our green player, and there is nothing that can stop those camos right now. So, army number-wise, it's 60 army for a red player, and army numbers are slightly better for FeAge's team as well. There is gonna be a big ram push here. No siege ram, only kept ram over here, as Cavalier and Heavy Camel are on the way, but Heavy Camel would just eat the cavalry of Burgundians, and like Whitecourt is nowhere close to actually being able to tech into Halberdier. In fact, Halberdier in general on Arabia 2v2s isn't really a great situation. Now Rams knocking down TCs over here, Chemistry just now coming in for FeAge. But Whitecourt is an Imperial, so he's gonna click Paladin, most likely, if he can afford it. He's bringing in the Cavalier to the other side, Paladin in 250. But as I said, this 250 is the time where you are gonna have problems, especially if the camos start moving this way as well. It's Cavalier now as well for your opponent, but no plus for defense for Brave, and this might be a little bit of a premature fight over here. And with that, this is gonna be a tricky engagement. I think this was just a little too early for Brave, and he's down to 11 Cavalier against just 10, but there is still 30 ARPs here against 32. This could be a super balanced engagement at the end of the day. The ram push coming in now, Shoulder Warriors on the way from Noisick to deal with the rams, so he's gonna have to unpop them. Otherwise, this castle is slowly going down, Shoros unpop, and they will actually fight the rams here. Still, there is a lot of heavy camos pushing the Burgundian player, who is teching into pikemen now. There is no archer support from the teammate, so he kinda has to solve that problem by himself. And there is traps as well for FeAge, as the castle going up here will actually kill the Shoulder Warriors that were meant to destroy the rams. Rams now moving in to take down the trap over there. You could just keep your rams over here on this side and make sure that the Shoros can't kill them. Voyager count still pretty high for both players from Whitecourt's team, despite the fact that Whitecourt lost a lot of Voyagers on this Doubt Castle pretty much, and he lost that gold mine as well. Castle goes up over here for Braven. Other side, the castle from Noisick slowly being taken down. There is going to be coinage, so apparently FeAge actually wants to start sending some resources to his teammate over here, but I don't think that they will need it. I don't think they will need it, because right now it's only 24 ARBs for Noisick. Some of them are actually busy fighting this. In fact, all of them are busy fighting this. It's not great to have camos fighting ARBs, but when you have this many camos supported by Cavalier and Light Cav, you can afford to take this fight. And the reason why you can afford it is because your teammate is pushing the opponent to the north with more ARBs. So it is at the end now 77 army against 25, and we have a huge advantage now for the Brazilians. Whitecourt resigns, and with that, FeAge's team takes game number 1, Arabia. Extremely important game in this set, I would say, and I think they managed to win this game just before things would have started turning a lot worse. Because Turks, this is the time of the game where Turks start running out of juice. And I feel like they managed to close the game out just before Turks would have had problems in post-Imperial. The problem was that Noisick got beaten quite hard to Imperial, and he never really had the archer numbers to deal with the camos, and that hurt so much at the end of the day. So we'll actually jump into the lobby over here to take a look at the drafts. So, Ethiopians, Burgundians gone for the Chileans, Malay and Turks for FeAge+Alive, and this means that we're actually going to one of the home maps of the Chileans, Team Acropolis or Eruption. So, the map is gonna be Eruption, and we will have a Britons-Portuguese combination for the Brazilians, which is, I think, a very fair and underrated combination. Portuguese, cheaper gold custom knights, they do have a fully upgraded Cavalier, so Portuguese is a good cavalry civ to play with, and that's gonna be Braven's civ, and on the other side, FeAge will be playing with Britons. On the north, we'll have Sicilians for Whitecourt in green, and Khmer for Noisick in blue, so Sicilians being used as an archer civ in this case. They're not really amazing as an archer civ though, that's for sure, so that results in some problems in the archer department, and I like Britons a lot more than I like Sicilians. Neither of these civs have thumb ring, but in terms of range, Britons are just much, much better from that perspective. With that being said, FeAge's base is actually alrightish. This gold mine is something I really don't like, but other than that, the map is wallable. This gold mine is disastrous though, so that's going to be troublesome for him. Nice gold at the back over here for Braven, quite far away though. This gold is also quite awful. Somewhat open map for Whitecourt over here with a decent gold mine and stone at the back. That's an okay-ish base for him, but it's fairly open. And for Noisick, he's actually gonna be having a fairly vulnerable southern part. Northern part is actually very open, and the gold mine isn't really accessible that much there either. With that being said, usually the play on this map is a fast castle. We could see capture H freeze, for example, over here, but more importantly, a fast castle with Khmer, like something like 23 plus 1 or 23 plus 0, so super fast castle from Khmer, as it looks like Noisick will land the shot on FeAge's scout, not going to connect for the time being. So, with that, as you probably know now, on Eruption you have all the gold in the middle, or at least not all the gold, but basically the majority of the gold on the map is in the middle, so it's just like Gold Rush, but there's a much steeper elevation over here, which allows the use of this hill a lot better. So, thank you for the gifted subs, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you TFP for that. So, with that, we are gonna have House Walls coming in on the left side for Noisick. He's only 2 on wood, and we have a lame over here. Hello there. It is FeAge laming his opponent. This is gonna be an extremely hard lame to pull off, because it's really at the back of Noisick's base towards Whitecourt. So, if you want to have a good lame here, you are gonna have to bring this out all the way to the outside. It's going to take quite a lot of effort. Let's see if Noisick is going to realize. Noisick will realize that. So he's going to try to block the boar. FeAge will disengage. The boar is going to go back. The boar goes back. It still is going to delay the board here for Noisick, so it's not going to be an as clean build as possible. And I like this. He's sending out some villagers for hunt. He is doing that without loom, which is a little bit dangerous, but all the huntables, except the boars, are actually here on the outside. So if you want to take those, then you gotta walk out with villagers. Braven is choosing a different approach. He is pushing in the deer from the hill. That's something that we have seen. He already pushed in 2 deer, as Braven is actually going to go for what is 20 pop feudal over here. So he wants to go with scouts here. Considering how open Noisick and Whitecourt's base is, scouts in this case could actually work out quite well. Although Noisick is Khmer, so he can jump into houses to save his villagers. And also, he's going to be fully walled by the time those scouts arrive. And look at that! Khmer houses are also acting as gates here for villagers. Look at that move. Jumps into the house, jumps out on the other side of the house. Nicely done by Noisick over there, so he's not actually forced to delete the wall or so. So, Braven is actually going to wall his left side off over here. We have 4 walls coming in over time, but that's going to be some big walls, so it's going to take some time until he finishes that. FeAge is actually playing relatively open for the time being, goes for feudal with what is a 20 pop feudal with Britons, so that's gonna be some fast archers from him. Whereas for a Whitecourt, it seems like this is gonna be just a standard-ish archer play. Whereas on the other side, it is gonna be Noisick probably just playing scouts here as well. This is going to be a 24 pop feudal, but this is not going to be a fast castle at all. This kind of has to be a scouts play. If that's the case, that's actually very, very late scouts play. So you see that Braven... Wait a second. Wait a second. Didn't I see Braven going up to feudal? I might be blind now, but regardless, it actually is a fast castle from him for the cheaper Portuguese knights. We're gonna have archers for FeAge, but he's actually playing open. And on the other side, it is going to be, as I said, this probably wanted to be a fast castle from Noisick, but he's not gonna have the food for it. So he kind of has to turn this into either a scouts build or just 23 voyagers into feudal age, eco upgrades, and then just go into castle age and go for knights type of build. So with that, Braven is already having quite a lot of food in the bank. A little bit low on gold, so he sends 4 on gold, which is understandable. And he will finish off his wars very, very soon. These are some ambitious wars, considering that he's only using 1 voyager, and this could backfire quite badly. If Noisick went for straight scouts, like 21 pop, 20 pop, he could already be exposed to scouts running towards him. That being said, are we gonna have a team wall? Hold on for a second, this is some massive, massive team walling coming in here. They will actually lock down like 30% of the map with this. The bear gets aggroed, but the scout should have no trouble helping out. Indeed, it's going to move in, help kill this little bear. And that means that the villager stays alive for the time being. They have both of their scouts over here just to make sure that no one actually runs past them before they actually wanted to. And there will be another range coming in here eventually, but first palisade walls, first archers just moving out for FeAge. And look at this. I did mention that if everybody is fast castling on this map, why not move out for a hunt? It is very possible to move out for a hunt here for FeAge. And with that, he's gonna have a nice little extra food income for himself, finds quite a lot of deer to mill. The meta for this map is completely unfigured. No one really knows what is the best play here because this wasn't played in random map tournaments before. This was always played in Empire Wars. In fact, I think it was only played in 2 Red Bulls, both with Empire Wars. So that is where we haven't seen these villagers moving out for a hunt because at that time that was too risky because you already have feudal armies. But when your opponents are fast castling, it could be very possible. The problem is that Noisick and Whitecourt aren't fast castling. Noisick is actually going for scouts, and Whitecourt is actually bringing in some archers from the north with Sicilians. So we'll have FeAge coming in with just 1 range archers. That's a Britain range, so that works a little faster, and we have a fast market over here from him. I wonder if he wants to sell stone and go up to castle age fast. He's right now chasing these scouts, archers on the way as well for Whitecourt, fletching in for both players. But no, actually no, there is no fletching. There is no fletching for FeAge, and I don't think that he expected this many forces to push him. He is going to lose all his archers, and he can be lucky if he only loses his archers, and oh boy, that's a problem. That's a big problem. There is no palisade to delete. There is no palisade to delete. Because, like, even if you delete your palisades, where are you going? You have to delete the barracks, the range, or the market to get in here. That's a disaster from FeAge. That's a disaster. He's going to lose 1 villager. He pretty much locked his villagers on the outside because there was no gate whatsoever. And now the archers with the hill advantage will just pick off all these villagers. It started so well for him. But then it went disaster because he just locked these villagers. And I was looking at this market spot and I was like, okay, whatever, it fits in here. But it doesn't fit in there. If this market wasn't placed here, then he would just delete the palisade, run back to the TC and reroll this one. Should have been doable. But that's now -5 villagers for FeAge. Hurts really badly for Britons in this situation. He's gonna be fully walled, that's true, but I feel like the feudal age pressure, if it can kill 5 villagers, that's an excellent situation for the Chileans. We'll have knights coming in here from Braven, but I think now the Chileans are having a much greater advantage than their opponent. So 2 players going into castle age here. As the last player to hit castle is actually going to be Whitecourt. So you will still have a bit of a window with crossbows here for FeAge, but it's going to be really tough. There's going to be double stable Khmer knights against you. And Portuguese knights are also cheaper, but you shouldn't underestimate the power of the Khmer boom, which is going to be crazy. So Khmer should be able to afford 2, maybe even 3 TCs with consistent knights production in this situation. Probably one of the TCs will be dropped in the middle by our blue player once he has knights out. It looks like Noisick is pinging the position of the red knights on the map. And with that, they know what to expect. Also pinging the middle. So what is Whitecourt planning? Is he planning to go for a TC over there? He might be. He's actually going for crossbows back at home, waiting until the upgrades kick in before moving out. Knights will be heading towards Noisick, who is just up to Castle Age, gets scale barding for himself. Not a single upgrade other than Bloodlines on Braven's Knights right now. And with that, we're gonna have archers moving out here for FeAge. He's got 6 archers only, that's the other problem. He didn't just lose villagers, he lost archer numbers. He's down to 6 archers against 15, because Whitecourt never lost archer numbers. I know Braven is alive, but I'm trying to avoid people asking who is alive, who is alive. So that's why I'm saying Braven. I know exactly that it's alive. In fact, that's how they sign up. But if I just say alive, everybody will be like, who is alive? So that's why we're rocking with Braven as things stand. And the crossbows will actually be going in towards those tables to intercept the reinforcements. That could be a decent idea. You try to take this fight over here if you're Noisick, and you also intercept the reinforcements to the crossbows of Whitecourt. You see knights going down pretty easily here to the crossbows with hill advantage. So with that, we're gonna have crossbows potentially being able to break through this little weaker wall here. I'm not sure why he's chasing knights. He could definitely break into the opponent's base, but apparently he refuses to do so. Knights being massed back at home by Noisick, still waiting to unpop them until he has +2 defense. He's gonna have 8 knights against 11, but those knights will have +2 defense and bloodlines, whereas the red knights will have just +1 defense. Crossbows now hitting the back of that gold mine from Braven. Ballistics now coming in. +2 defense as well for Alive. And with that, this could be an excellent chance for Noisick to intercept those crossbows. Knights jumping on crossbows like that would be a disaster for FeAge. And he finds the crossbows, immediately turns around, and starts running for the crossbows. Now, knights from a red player isn't actually here, and this could be both archer players losing their entire army, because it looks like both cavalry players will take the hill advantage against those crossbows. And nice choke point fight over there. I feel like Whitecourt's actually getting something out of those crossbows, and he's fighting downhills as well. It looks like FeAge is going to lose his crossbows to a couple of knights in the middle. I like the split up here from Noisick. He helps a little bit to his teammate with the meat shield, and also cleans up those crossbows in the middle with the remaining knights. He actually had a very, very nice sense of how many knights to split off to make sure that this is cleaned up, yet he's also able to help his teammate. Also, Whitecourt has been microing up hills all the time, so he was able to take quite a lot of downhill shots on those knights. Allows them to now control the game with 29-10 military count. So indeed, right now, the Chileans look a lot stronger in here, and we already have 4 villagers on stone for Noisick, so we'll see if he actually is planning about a castle in the future. He's gonna be on 3 TCs. Second TC coming in for Whitecourt right now, and we'll have 3 TCs for FeAge, 2 TCs for Alive right now. We'll have knights coming in from Noisick and a monastery, interestingly. What is the plan with the monastery? I have no idea, because 1 or 2 monks won't really help you. Like, you can convert more to knights, sure, but that's not really going to be a thing in a 2v2 setup, to be honest. So, with that, we are gonna have crossbows moving out here from Whitecourt. Once again, could intercept these knights over here. And in the meanwhile, we'll have second TC coming in here for Whitecourt in the middle, and the third one for Noisick. So, as things stand, we are gonna have Braven with a couple of knights here, but not an awful lot, and he's losing quite a lot of them to the crossbows firing down hills. These guys don't have thumb rings, so they're pretty much actually fully upgraded for Sicilians. There's no more upgrades to get for Whitecourt right now. Obviously, thumb ring would be great, but that's not available for Sicilians. A monk actually is reasonable for healing. I was just not sure if that's actually worth the investment into monastery and the monk, but it seems like that's something that Noisick is actually gonna go for. So with that, we're gonna have a strong Khmer boom coming up, and that's something that we also have to pay attention to. Villager count right now is even, but you should never, ever, 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 ever underestimate the Khmer boom. So with that, we're gonna have the Knights soon attacking Braven's base, I believe that's the plan. Trying to take down the stables potentially and hit that gold mine is gonna be the name of the game. It looks like Knights are now running towards Whitecourt's base. This is actually a fairly weak wall, so they can actually get through that very, very easily, and there's no one home to defend, or you could even just use the open gates of the villagers. Not a lot of Knights here, and some of them are fairly damaged, but this is gonna be a little bit of an annoyance for Whitecourt. Still, it looks like Whitecourt will actually take a decent engagement over here against FeAge's crossbows, and meanwhile these Knights are actually trying to take down the stables. For now, it looks like this is more like a poking and probing, and both players are trying to figure out, or both teams trying to figure out what the next step will be. Although, now Whitecourt is actually clapping that army of crossbows, especially with Knights coming in to support, so it's going to be 30 crossbows and 18 Knights against only 17 Knights, and most importantly, one crossbowman from our Britain player. One crossbowman from FeAge right now. He's got double ranges, but he doesn't really have the numbers, and now there is Knights knocking down these stables, and when you actually send these 20 crossbows in here, they can just pick up the villagers. Monk coming in to get a conversion. Whitecourt should be sending in those crossbows over there to deny repairs, potentially breaching this part of the base, denying the gold mine as well. There's gold mine at the back for Braven, so he's fine, but still, losing the stables would hurt so badly. That being said, it also hurts so badly if you lose villagers in the middle to the Knights counterattack of Braven. Many of those Knights are very weak, but still doing damage over here. But the stables will slowly go down, I believe, so soon we'll need FeAge with the army. The problem is that they're outnumbered in terms of army numbers, 2-1. Nice quick walls from Braven, but I'm not sure how long these will hold against Castle Age units, especially with Whitecourt going into Imperial. Whitecourt playing this one really, really well, and he goes into Imp, and he's gonna grab Arbalest first, whereas no one from the opponent's team is actually going into Imperial anytime soon. And look at the Khmer boom, Noisick is also going into Imperial, so both Chileans will actually Imp. They even take down the Blacksmith. I think this Blacksmith isn't actually going to survive until Iron Casting is in, which feels like a small thing, but it actually is big. It looks like we have guard towers from FeAge trying to control the middle of the map, but I am not sure if that's gonna be enough here, especially once Imperial Age kicks in for Noisick and Whitecourt. They actually clean up those Knights in the middle as well. 62 army against 28. The upgrades as well are +2 defense for Noisick, and it is a +1/+2 for Braven, so it's a slightly better upgrades for a red player, but at the end of the day, it is the numbers that decide the outcome of this situation. So with that, crossbows taking the hill over here, 30 seconds away from Imperial. But I think what is more concerning is Noisick being in Imperial with Cavalier, because they don't really have anything to stop that one with. Castle Age units won't actually stop it. And there was an ambitious tower attempted here by FeAge. Currently, it seems like the Knights will just overrun the crossbows. So, with that, indeed, that's a good one on chat. That's a good one. Braven is alive, and FeAge is just dead. That's a good pun. I approve that. So, with that, Imperial Age in now. Arbalests will come in even without tumbling. These are Arbalests, so you gotta be careful with those. And you see that FeAge, best case scenario, he gets to Imperial in 4 minutes. Best case scenario for Braven, he gets into Imperial this year, basically. Because he's like nowhere close to imping here. So, on this map, oh my goodness. This actually just turns worse and worse for FeAge, and they actually tap out of the game. I feel like this game felt so lost for FeAge when he lost those 5 villagers. Everything after it just felt like, oh yeah, we're doing something, but we're not actually winning the game here by any means. And it seemed right. With that, Whitecourt's team actually evens things out, and we'll go back to the lobby with an even score. So with that, we got Burgundians and Ethiopians as a loss. For the Chileans, now they win with Khmer and Sicilians, and they win their own home map, which means we're going to either Forest Pond or Regicide Fortress as the first home map of the Brazilians. They lost Britons and Portuguese, Malay and Turks were win in the previous game, so we will have Indians, Spanish, Burmese remaining from Pool 2, Franks, Mongols, Tatars from Pool 1. It is probably going to be Mongols for Regicide Fortress, or maybe Acropolis. Maybe Tatars, yeah, Tatars for Acropolis, Mongols for Regicide Fortress, and lastly Forest Pond should be Franks then. Franks and maybe Indians or something like that. Regardless of that, they don't really have amazing civilizations for a map like Forest Pond. So with that, we're actually going to jump into game number 3 over here. So the Brazilians versus the Chileans in this one, we will have, as I said, we will have, if Capture also starts to cooperate, Forest Pond in here. What if you actually put a pond in the middle of Hideout? That's the good question, right? You put a pond in the middle of Hideout and you get Forest Pond. That was a brand new map for 2 pools 2, and it was rarely used in tournaments ever since. We are going to have Noisick and Whitecourt playing on the left and the southern part of the map. We'll have Noisick as Byzantines in blue, and on the south we'll have Lithuanians for Whitecourt in green. Other side, we will have FeAge playing as Mongols in yellow, and on the north we will have Burmese for Alive or Braven, whichever you prefer. So this map has quite a lot of water in the middle, which means that fishing is almost a must over here. But you also have to consider a lot of things. You could get pressured from the outside with no hope of falling back anywhere. Or you could potentially try pushing from the middle. We have seen Koreans being used to land here with towers, for example in early Castle Age, because the thing is that the back of your base is only protected by 2,000 Palisade. A single fire galley can burn through that very, very easily, and it's not great when your back of your base is so exposed. So there's a lot of ways to play this map. Really, the meta is completely unfigured, and you're going to see a large amount of different strategies attempted here for our different teams. This is definitely one of the most interesting maps of the tournament, I would say. So the deer spawns on the outside, just like it does on Hideout. Some of your sheep also spawns on the outside. That is because the land inside your base is actually pretty small, as you see. So it's not like you actually have all these tiles available. Most of those are water. So Mongols and Burmese, most likely Mongols will be playing a fast feudal age play here with the hunt, and then go for the fire galleys. Whereas on the other side, we're gonna have Whitecourt playing Lithuanians. That could be a fast dock play even. So he could already send out a Voyager dock. Apparently he's not actually doing that. He could have gone for the Lithuanian fast dock build, but he didn't. Just goes for a standard dock timing over here with Lithuanians. That's going to be the water sieve, although you can also see Byzantines docking over here. So it looks like it's gonna be double water play from the Chileans. Indeed, Saracens can be an interesting civilization to try on this map, because you got the archers getting through the walls easily, and you also got the galley play, potentially market abuse. There's a lot of versatility with this map, I believe. So with that, we're gonna have Whitecourt playing Lithuanians. Should be good to go to feudal very soon. Gets a couple of fishing ships out as well. This is definitely a map that is favoring a slower start, and you could see that the Brazilians picked 2 relatively slow maps for themselves, Forest Pond and the Regicide Fortress. So they don't really want early super aggressive gameplay. they like to take their time mostly. And it looks like FeAge actually mazes out on the sheep. That's a little bit of a potato scouting, but that doesn't really matter right now for him. It's more important for him apparently to push in the deer, which makes sense with Mongols. So he might find that sheep later on, but right now he prioritizes the hunt because he wants a fast feudal for water. Everybody is going for water. The question is, who's going to be the first one that attacks on land? This map requires an insane balance between land investments and water investments. So if you mess up your balance, you are gonna have a very, very tough time, usually lose the game. It's extremely hard to balance this. If you underinvest into water, you will just let your teammate or your opponent have an insane fish boom. If you overinvest into that, you're just gonna get beaten on the outside and suddenly get pushed from siege. So with that, there's double docks for FeAge, which means he is going to play fire galleys, already up to fuel age at 18 pop. That's an insanely fast fuel if you add the fact that that contains one fishing ship. That's a super omega fast feudal for FeAge. He also found 2 of his sheep over here, so he's good to go. And he's opening galleys. The reason why he's opening galleys is because he knows he's beating his opponent so much into feudal that he can afford to open galleys. This is an interesting strategy from Whitecourt. He deleted the policide and replaced it with a dock. This makes quite a lot of sense because you can block this single tile of passage over here with a dock completely, and it's a much sturdier than a single tile of policide. So dock blocking that crossing is definitely possible. Over there, we got fire galleys coming in here for Whitecourt, but the galleys are already in for FeAge, and we will have the galleys sailing forward to pick off fishing ships. It's gonna be double docks from both Chileans over here, and I like this reinforcement on the walls. You want to make sure that the opponents don't surprise you with even just a couple of archers or maybe men-at-arms, especially with Burmese, you never know if that's not gonna be men-at-arms. And indeed, this is Braven going for a fast castle or run-by play here. It's dangerous because the thing is that Whitecourt+Noisick will have an easy time controlling water with 2 docks from the Lithuanian player, and it's also 2 docks from Noisick. So he's gonna have Byzantine fire galleys supported by some more fire galleys from the Lithuanian player. It's gonna be an easy control over the water. Nice move from FeAge, by the way, picking off the fishing ships. And right now it seems like he doesn't really want to win water. He just wants to make sure that their opponents don't have a good fishing eco here. Sailing all the way around, looking for fishing ships. And with that, one fishing ship is gonna get isolated from the rest of them. And the galleys move in, finish off one of them. The other galley is probably gonna go down really fast over here. So 2 fishing ships left here, still for Noisick, but we got Alive going into fuel age over here already. And the thing is that if your opponents are not contesting the outside at all and both of them are going for water, you can drop a castle here. And if you drop a castle here, suddenly Noisick is gonna be in trouble. So I'm going to be curious to see if that's actually going to be a castle drop or not. From Noisick, he could go for a more passive castle, but I feel like it would be definitely worth trying going for an aggressive castle drop. There is no loom on this Voyager, and the galley will actually intercept it, so no third dock coming in for Noisick. This dock would have been helpful because it actually is close to the middle of the pond, so you can actually increase your fishing efficiency. With that, it looks like FeAge has actually lost the water, but he has queued up a couple of demos, and he's walling this Voyager in, so he's waiting for the right time to strike to have all the fire ships clumped up and then pop out the demos and sink them that way. So, Market Blacksmith coming in here for our red player, and soon we're gonna have Braven clicking up to Castle Age over here. And other than him, no one else is gonna go castle, because even though the water control is on the side of Noisick and Whitecourt, I don't think they're benefiting from that, and that's what I was referring to. Balancing this out is extremely important, and yes, they won water, congratulations, but you only have 0 fishing ships for Whitecourt. Noisick is actually benefiting from that one quite nicely, so 7 fishing ships is nothing to be shy about. And with Loom coming in for Braven, I think that he wants a castle drop. And indeed, they're going to double down on the opponent's scout here, just to make sure that that castle drop is not gonna get spotted. That's smart, because the green scout is over here on the right side. There is gonna be a forward what from Whitecourt? forward range, maybe. He's nowhere close to Castle Age, so it's not gonna be a forward workshop just yet. But he wants some aggression on FeAge. Water control now heavily in the favor of the Chileans. 10 Voyagers lead for a Whitecourt's team. And with that, where is the Voyagers? There is the Voyagers. And I wonder if Noisick knows what's coming his way. He's slowly walling himself up here, but I'm not sure how long this is gonna last. And the thing is that if you land the castle here, it's gonna be awfully hard for Noisick to leave his base. It's gonna be awfully hard for Noisick to leave his base here. It looks like the docks are going down. Demos weren't really successful at dealing with a lot of damage. Archer's moving out now for FeAge, so he's also switching to land aggression. And Whitecourt spots the archers, gets Loom immediately. Loom just now coming in for Noisick, who wants to go into Castle Age himself, selling some stone. Remember, he's got insane fishing eco, so it's 80 eco compared to 62, but Arambai builds were never about eco. They were always about aggression and just dealing more damage and to compensate for your lack of eco yourself. And here's the deal. I said that you have to balance this out very well. And Whitecourt and Noisick will actually invest into a lot of fishing eco. In the long run, they will have an insane food income from this one. But they gotta survive until they start benefiting from that. The longer the game goes, the better this is going to be for Whitecourt and Noisick, because they will have a crazy fishing eco. But this is gonna be a scary one to stop with a castle going up here from Braven. Braven actually keeps 4 Voyagers on stones. He's gonna go for a second TC, but with 4 on stone, he might think about a second castle in the near future. There's gonna be a defensive tower for Noisick. And the question is now, if you're Whitecourt, what are you doing? Because if you're Whitecourt, you could try getting a couple of scouts out or even knights, because you will click up to Castle Age soon. And either transport, like it's not ideal to delete this dock, but if this was open and you can use your fire ships to open this one, you can send knights to the back of the opponent's eco. Nice demo hit over there. It's actually worth rewinding because I wonder how many ships it sank. Nothing. Nothing. That's just one demo. In that case, that wasn't a good demo at all. It just unpopped and damaged the fire galley. Didn't really do much more than that. So here's the Arambai. Defensive tower will be up for Noisick. And in this case, if you do Arambai, you actually go Rams. Because you have the Arambai killing the Voyagers that are trying to kill your Rams. So it's Arambai and Ram. And use the castle to actually focus down the walls, like the layer behind the one that you're attacking with the Arambai and the Rams. So 2TC play right now for Braven. They're behind by 18 Voyagers, but that is still a scary push here with the Arambai. And as I said, Braven is on 11 on stone. Do you know what that means? That's gonna mean a second castle. The question is where exactly that second castle is coming up. Could be a castle drop on the other opponent, or could be potentially a follow-up castle to this one once he secures some ground for himself. Transport ship coming in here from Whitecourt. He wants to get a couple of units into the base of potentially Braven or FeAge. We'll see who is the lucky one for that. It looks like Noisick is sort of forced to buy wood in this one, and he's heavy on stone. Noisick actually wants a defensive castle. Who is the highest rated player in this cup? I don't know, Viper, Hera, Leary, you can choose it. So, it probably is Hera right now. With that, we're gonna have crossbows soon coming in here for FeAge. And that should mean that he's gonna be able to start applying pressure from the outside. Last to Castle Age is gonna be Whitecourt. Whitecourt, however, is gonna start making knights, and I believe he just wants to transport a few to the back of the opponent's base. You see, this is open now. This is very open, so if this dock isn't here, you can just run to the opponent's base now, or you can just transport over there. That works as well. Stone walls coming in for Braven. He actually goes for the defensive guard tower over here. Ram is going to start knocking on those walls. The problem is that the repair Voyager will just get picked off by the guard towers, and Noisick is getting close to a defensive castle, but guess what? Braven can actually afford another castle here. If you drop a castle here, you will actually range the gold. Now, you don't need to be a lot more forward than this one. In fact, if you get Botkin, this castle might be able to range some of the gold, I'm not sure. Imperial Age coming in for Noisick though, using the Byzantines cheap Imperial. And if that happens, he's gonna drop a defensive castle here and trap this down. Also, remember they have a crazy eco because of all the fishing in the middle. And soon, knights will be coming out from double stables. Since FeAge is not pressuring from the outside, you can just send those knights into his base. And here comes the transport. This is why this map is so fun to look at. I feel like when this map was first created, the idea was just, what if we do a pond in the middle of hideout? But it actually became much more entertaining than I originally anticipated it to be. Because there's so many layers of this game over here. There's the second castle to clean up the towers, to clean up the gold mine. But I think at this point, if you're Noisick, you are actually going to run up a university because you might need bombard cannons to deal with this one if you can't get a castle up. But you probably send 20 villagers on stone right now. You want the castle here, regardless of what happens, because that's gonna stop the Arambai, that's gonna stop the Mangonel, and you will have traps to take this down. It is nowhere close to Imperial for Braven. He could afford a third castle very soon, so he could castle drop his opponent. Apparently camels came back and cleaned up the knights, or at least knights will just run back, and now the knights will be transported inside the base of our red player, to be honest. This is open as well, so it could very well be possible to transport those over there. Indeed, here they come to our red player. The gold mine is a little bit exposed, so they could cause some chaos over there. Arambai now taking down the tower over there. Guard tower is actually pretty sturdy, so it takes some time to take down guard towers. And indeed, Noisick with the stone, he actually wants a castle right now. The concern is that I'm not 100% sure if this tower goes or this castle goes up, because you could send in the Arambai to slow this one down. There is going to be an opening, but the ram goes down, so the ram is not going to be able to attack. And I think this tower is so important. If this tower wasn't here, this castle wouldn't go up. The Arambai would just camp here and kill the villagers. Elite skirm from our Byzantine player to deal with the Arambai. On the outside, we do have a Whitecourt expanding his base. It looks like FeAge wants to wall off this right side, so turn sort of into a hideout situation. Nice quick walls from Braven, making sure that the knights don't run past over here and hit the gold miners. A bit of a messy eco right now for Braven, but other than that, he is actually fine. Arambai now will be heading towards Whitecourt though, and Whitecourt, he does have a second layer of walls, but I think there is a hole in between the mill and that stable, so it's very possible that those Arambai could do a lot of damage. Trap immediately queued up by Noisick, so he actually wants to trap these down, and the problem that Braven is facing is that he doesn't actually have the resources to click into Imperial and make his own traps, so he can't really do much against the traps. Arambai are actually pretty bad at sniping traps as well. So here we go. Lithuanian player also gathering relics over here. That's the first one coming in for a Whitecourt. And with that, Arambai now are through the gates. That's the easiest part of this one. The question is, can they get through these walls? So their building attack, I believe, has been nerfed quite heavily, so they're not as good as they used to be against buildings, but they still are fairly formidable. They could slowly eat their way through buildings, but it's gonna take some time until that actually happens. Going through the walls, and on the other side, we're gonna have 2 traps out for Noisick. I don't think that the Braven can keep this castle up. And those are the 2 castles he's using to produce Arambai, which is the bigger problem, that his entire military production could just disappear if those castles go down. That's the drawback that you're taking when you are going for a castle drop. That if your opponent beats you to Imperial and you can't finish him off until then, suddenly this becomes a very, very disastrous scenario. So, Arambai, I think you can afford to just run past the TC here, to be honest, and hit the wood line. 2 TCs up for Whitecourt in the middle, and there is one outside of his base. Slowly but surely, FeAge is walling himself off. Remember that he's Mongols, and you don't want fully bomb Mongols in your game at all. So, at this very moment, Braven is going for 4 TCs. I think he just gives up on that Arambai push, at least on the left side. Noisick's base, there's gonna be elite skirms coming in. The elite skirms will have to head towards Whitecourt's base though, because there is some damage being caused here by the Arambai. Arambai and Mangodai together could be a very scary force to fight against, and Whitecourt also wants a defensive castle. He's 20 on stone currently. Has 1 relic sandwiched in between 2 monks, that's what I call a Rio sandwich. So Monk's coming in here for FeAge, but gets one conversion, might actually get another one. This is actually a good fight. This is a very, very good fight for FeAge. He doesn't have a single upgrade on those camels, and he's up against +1, +2, but still, at the end of the day, he actually wins this fight, and I think he wants a castle drop here, right? This should be a castle drop here on this hill, because that would threaten that TC and that gold mine, and indeed FeAge wants a castle drop. Arambai now coming in as well to support. It's all about getting this castle up over here, and then Whitecourt is not going to have a lot of places to go. To be honest, skirmishers catch up and a lot of Arambai die here. Not something that Braven reacts to, and Braven reacts too late here. He lost basically all his Arambai. Other side, as expected, the castles will go down, and now you can actually tech into Arbalest. If you are Noisick, you don't even need a lot of upgrades. You just need crossbow, you still need bracer chemistry, but you can tech into Arbalest and start pushing that side. So with that, castle is up, and FeAge is actually going to start making mango dye, or at least that's the plan. Still, there is a transport ship in the middle, and this is important as well. I would dare to say that here Whitecourt could go for, if not War Galley, but at least Botkin Arrow. Because if you go for Botkin, you deny that gold, and also deny that stone. I'm just noticing that that stone is awful for FeAge after losing water. Because it can very well be denied by just 1 or 2 galleys, which is, needless to say, very, very important. Braven goes for a lame on the stone. Voyager count is still dead even now, so Braven did an excellent job catching up in terms of Voyager count, which isn't easy. So he was quite a bit behind in terms of will count, uses the trebs to take down the mangonel over here. But at the end of the day, this could actually drag out to be a very, very, very long game here. The Qualifiers is definitely delivering, I have to say. We have some insanely good games. In this one, a couple of Catapracts coming out to clean up the Voyagers and the Scorpions. Imperial Age on the way for Whitecourt and FeAge as well. The thing is that Braven is not super far away, but he's gonna have to stonewall himself off, and we'll see if that happens in time. Because this army starts moving rather soon. Light cav for FeAge, so he's not gonna have a lot of mango dye. In fact, he has 1 castle only. So it's just gonna be a couple of mango dyes. He's gonna get beaten to Imperial by like 20 seconds, so this castle's gonna start making traps a little earlier than the yellow castle. We are gonna have 4 TC boom now for Braven, idling his TCs. Is he idling them? No, he isn't. Why is he not going up to Imperial? He's booming like a madman right now. Skirmisher is now coming in, and I feel like they will reach this wall before the walls would be finished. Even just a single bit of a hole could end up being a disaster. So I am unsure if these walls actually will go up. You see that there's already contingency walls for Braven, but that's not the problematic part. The problematic part is here on the left. He's still booming, so he wants to get to crazy Voyager count before going up to Imperial, and that's gonna be a defensive castle. It would have been more ideal if you get that castle on that hill, but that wasn't really an option now that the skirmishers are through. Arbalest chemistry soon coming in for Noisick. That's just crossbow right now, but eventually that's going to be Arbalest bracer chemistry, and it's gonna be Arbalest bombard cannon on that side. Other side, it looks like we're gonna have a light cav coming in mostly from FeAge. He's gonna have some mango dye, but that's not an awfully high count, and that's gonna be a second castle for Whitecourt, meaning that he's gonna have quite a lot of traps to take this castle down. Over here, some knights are out from Braven, but obviously, if you take a look at these two civilizations, Lithuanians have insanely good Paladin, Byzantines have very good Arbalest play. Those are two very good late game civilizations, whereas Burmese Mongols, I mean Mongols are amazing, but Burmese late game, I'm not necessarily impressed about that one. That being said, the Arambai actually come in here and they allow Braven to actually reroll this one. He's still Castle Age, but he will be able to finish off with the walling, and now his eco is actually really good. Also worth noting that Whitecourt and Noisick are out of fish on the pond, so they have to add fishing ships. And do you know what you can do here as well? You can actually add some cannon galleons if you want to, or just standard galleons could also work to harass this part of the opponent's eco. It actually does quite a lot of damage that they have to relocate their stuff, especially if you take a look at a situation like this, gold and stone accessible. If you're Whitecourt and Noisick, you shouldn't allow this stone to be taken. Just one war galley would deny that very easily. It's 2 castles versus 1, so FeAge's only castle is actually going down. And obviously, Mongols live and die with their castles. So with that, FeAge is just going to lose his castles over here, and the castle goes up over there on the right side. So with that, he's still going to leave with one castle. Chain boarding coming in right now. We're apparently gonna have some heavy cavalry coming in as well from Braven, going for +2 defense. Another layer of stone walls, so they're definitely planning for a long game here, as Arbalest and Bombard Cannon are now coming in for a Noisick. But this is the moment where if you can't break the resistance on the outside, just try to push them on the inside. So just as much as Hideout can stall out and then you can't really push on the outside, here you have your options to push in the middle. Soon you have to start deleting these fire ships. That's actually something to talk about, because those fire ships will actually turn into lost population, so to say. You have a bunch of units that aren't really doing anything, and with that, you're just losing population space. You see that they're almost pop-capped, so they're gonna start thinking about, hey, do I need these fire ships over here in the middle now? Another castle comes in here, this time by Noisick. Left side, we have a push coming in. The bombard cannon is melting through the gates. Another layer of walls coming in. FeAge is actually thinking about onagers. On onagers, should be good to go against the skirmishers, because it looks like we'll have a double skirm play here. Lithuanian player is not going for cavalry, he's going for skirmishers against the Mangadai, but the reality is that they're up against a lot of cavalry. So these skirms will actually be a disaster, I would say, for Whitecourt. He's going to lose that entire army, and there's going to be onagers. Left side, we'll need some onagers as well for Braven. Like, an onager redemption monk with block printing could definitely be viable here for our red player, because he needs to convert the bombard cannons with something. So ballistics, defense upgrade just now coming in. That looks bad, because like the defense upgrade is only good for a run by, and that is basically it. And it looks like now the Halberdier and Arbalest will soon flood into the base of Braven. Big fight on the right side as the skirmishers get intercepted by the light cav. Elite Mangadai in for FeAge in a matter of moments. The numbers aren't impressive though, 6 Mangadai on the field only. Trade is coming in right now for our cold color team, but I feel like the biggest thing is that they're actually through these walls, and they have a fairly decisive numbers advantage. Unit quality is also on their side. There's gonna be some light cav from Braven, but I'm not sure what light cav can do against Arbalest and Halberdier, especially in terms of cost efficiency. Castles being trapped down. There's 2 castles only for our red player, so that's where his run-by production is all focused at. There is villagers sent to the corners, so FeAge and Braven are always thinking about establishing trade. But the thing is, right now, the push seems extremely strong here on the left side from Noisick. Whitecourt is holding the right side. And with that, we are gonna have bombard cannons melting. This TC here, the castle is still up, but it's going to go down slowly. 146 villagers for Braven. He's got quite a lot of hussar over here. The problem is the army quality. When you have 150 vills, you think about units like paladins, you think about units like elephants, because for such a strong eco you need expensive units, and hussar is not really one of those. So our by now actually taking some good shots on those clustered up Arbalest and skirmishers though, and Braven might have waited just enough to decide this engagement, and suddenly he evens the fight over here on the north. On the south we do have a counterattack now. Latest show up, and the latest will actually be pretty decent in this situation. There is just not enough Mangadai for FeAge. He's on 3 castles now. Still, we're gonna have a nice counterattack coming in here from Braven, as the Brazilians are actually taking over in the score. The trap still is up, and nice defense from Braven over here. Aramba and Light Cav can be a scary composition, and on the other side, this basically turns into 2 separate 1v1s. Byzantines and Lithuanians in post-imp are both amazing as a combination for 2v2s, but this is basically 2 separate 1v1s, one on the right side between FeAge and Whitecourt, and one on the left side between Braven and Noisick. And now it looks like it is the Brazilians pushing both of those sides. As I said, this is the time where you have to think about, hey, what can I do to be a little bit more aggressive from the middle, potentially. I like this castle quite a bit for FeAge, secures that gold mine for himself, and he's slowly getting his manga die numbers up. It's up to 22. Those skirmishers are lacking tower shields. They're even lacking +4 defense, so they're actually somewhat underwhelming. And as much as Mongols are reliant on their castles to produce their manga die, that applies to Lithuanians as well if they go for Lytis, and that's the case for Whitecourt over here. So with that, we're gonna have the trade coming in for Braven and FeAge as well. Slightly more developed trade, I would say, for Noisick and Whitecourt, but not by that much. Still, at this point we have 25 manga die, not a lot of meat shield in front. You will need a lot more hussar to deal with the Lithuanian skirmishers, but traps are being set up. Only one of them is firing, even though 3 of them could easily take that castle down. So it looks like we have a champion play now from Braven. Makes sense if it's only Halberdier and Skirmisher. Burmese champion eat that for breakfast, but we'll have a lead run by as well. So Thumb Ring on the way for Noisick. He wants to continue with Arbalest as the onagers now come in, and I think you don't want to chop down this forest with your onagers. You want this narrow choke point for your manga die. If you chop this down, the latest will surround you. Still, first castle goes down, leaving our green player with only 2, with a third one in construction to the south. So he wants to continue with Lytis, and is this a comeback from FeAge and Braven? That's the question. Because now the north once again is being pushed by Noisick. Fortified walls are in for Braven. Once again, he's waiting for the opportunity to strike. But now the south, the Mongols' death blob is actually coming in. Latest surrounding the manga die, but I don't think this was a good enough surround. And latest have been nerfed. They have a weaker pierce armor now. They only have 1 base pierce armor, so they actually suffer from a lot more damage from manga die than they used to be. And there is still more manga die coming in. The cost efficiency here of the manga die is insane, and I was doubting the manga dies and overall the Mongols in this one, but fully boomed post-imp manga die and Mongols is extremely hard to stop. There's a decent amount of Arambai here, and the Arambai, even with the new projectile behavior, they're actually very good against clustered up units who start trying to snipe bombard cannon will be unsuccessful. There's still a lot of Arbs though, and the problem is that Burmese are awful against Arbalest. That's their biggest weakness, to be honest. Especially if there is bombard cannon accompanying it, because they have awful skirmishers, and their onagers will just get picked off by bombard cannons. With that being said, the second castle from Whitecourt is actually going to go down just before tower shields would hit, which hurts quite badly, because you want tower shields for those skirmishers. Even though there is quite a lot of onagers. Nomads! FeAge is actually going for Nomads. Why? Nomads is the... I wonder if he wanted Drill. I always... Like, when I see this, I always think about maybe he wanted Drill. What Nomads does is that if you delete your houses or you lose them... Oh! Well, it was nice knowing you, Whitecourt. That's for sure. That was some nice onager hits over there. So, if you lose your houses, you won't lose the population space, which is nice, but I don't see them losing houses, actually, unless he wants to delete those for farming space. FeAge has to replace his lumber camps, because those are not really great. But, still, now traps are going down. They're killing the monastery. And that's extremely important. There's only 1 castle for Whitecourt, and a second castle just now coming in, but he doesn't really have numbers anymore. The north, all that Braven needs to do now, to be honest, is just wait. There is gonna be Paladin though. Is he actually hiding Cavalier somewhere? No, he isn't. Look at Noisick. Look at that vulture. His teammate just lost his monastery, and I'm like, oops, that was a big onager hit, another big onager hit. It's actually worth rewatching because I was playing the role of a plapcaster and I was talking about something else, but another big onager hit coming in here. So, with that, his teammate lost that relic, and immediately after, he runs in and takes that relic. Now it's actually Rams. I wonder if he's going to notice that it's not Drill that he researched, but Nomads. I don't get the idea of Nomads, because it's not like he deleted houses or anything. Nomads would make no sense in this situation. So I feel like he wanted to tech into Drill, but chose the wrong upgrade. I don't know, Whitecourt, I feel like at this point you might as well just resign if you just let your skirmishers get absolutely annihilated by onagers, because it starts to hurt to see so many skirmishers dying. It just feels so bad for my soul. And credits to Braven for holding this one. This wasn't an easy hold. He's up against Siege Rams, Halberdiers, Arbalest, Bombard, kind of very versatile tech tree from Byzantines. and he's holding this, taking into champion right now with a run by, taking down the castles. There is gonna be a formidable force of paladins coming in here, and that's still 7 relics. Or not 7 relics, but 3 relics for +7 attack. So it looks like Noisick actually used that monk to put that relic into his teammate's monastery. There is Drill coming in with heavy camo supplies, just now for Braven with plate mail. So we're gonna have heavy camos against the heavy cavalry right now over here, and champions against the overwhelming amounts of paladins or halberdiers over here. Quite a lot of arbs are still on the field, but Rambai are actually doing pretty decent here if the arbalasts are clustered up. So with that, I believe that this is once again going to be a hold from Braven. They also have a lot better trade, I believe, if you look at the numbers. Now Mangudai coming in here. You gotta be careful still with the paladins and the skirmishers. Those are +7 paladins. Trebs taking down this castle over here. We'll have bombard towers defending from Noisick to make sure that the trade doesn't fall, because now the trade is in danger. Paladins diving in those, sniping the Trebs. And now it's drilled, but still all the Trebs are going down. It looks like FeAge just decides to save the Mangudai and lets the Trebs die for the time being. Left side, this always confuses me, these fortified walls, but that goldmine being lamed from Noisick actually hurts quite badly. Still, now it's champion, and Noisick's arbalest numbers aren't impressive, so champion and the Rambai could actually be a reasonable composition over here for these players. And it's gonna be heavy camos now from FeAge. He's gonna miss the final armor upgrade for those because he's Mongols, but other than that, these are fully upgraded heavy camos, supported by Mangudai. This feels like a very decent unit comp for FeAge, and the numbers are what actually swing this battle in his favor. It's only 23 paladins, not a lot of skirmishers to deal with the Mangudai, and camos here on excellent meat shield. They're very, very gold heavy. That's the main problem for FeAge. I'm not sure how long he can sustain this one. He does have a reasonable amount of trade, but this is still super, super gold heavy. But here are the Ferrari Rams, and just marching deeper and deeper into the opponent's base, going for the ranges. You see that there is significant production issues for Whitecourt. He's got like 10 skirmishers queued up on each of his ranges. He's starving for production, but he's losing building after building. And he will need to rebuild like 15 ranges over here at the back. But he's losing his base inch by inch. Soon this is going to be breached, and a couple of light cav can run in for the lumberjacks. And look at the left side. Once again, Braven pushes out a little bit and then falls behind his walls. This must be so tilting to fight against. Braven is just... he isn't really willing to attack. He's just playing full-on turtle defense mode. And I did mention that the Brazilians chose two very, very close maps, Regicide Fortress and Forest Pond, as their home maps. Both of them can be super, super turtley and long. So, Paladins are now slowly grinding down the Rams, but that comes at a price. The Skirmishers are going down, and I feel like FeAge just wants to finish off the Skirmishers, and he doesn't want Skirmishers on the field at all. This is why he's committing his Mangudai against Skirmish, which is not ideal by any means. But I mean, now it's Light Cav running in here, and FeAge and Braven turning this one around, coming back in this game. What a game this is, again. And this is just the first round of qualifiers. Imagine when teams like Viper and Taro versus Hera and Leary will be fighting on this map or so. So, really the first 2 days of tournament is delivering an awful lot of good games. Right now, once again, Noisick will attempt a push here, but Braven is just waiting. He's waiting until the siege arrives, and then he's gonna move out, kill the siege, clean up this army, and then fall back. This must be so tilting to fight against. This castle is coming in clutch over here. There's even 2 defensive traps, by the way, for Braven. He's got 2 defensive traps, so he can pick off traps immediately. So, with that, oh, those are really clustered up Arbalasts. That's a disaster fight for Braven. That's a disaster fight. Clustered up Arbalasts. They're even being shelled by traps, come on. But this is where Rambai are really shining against units that are clumped up so badly. And now it's 2-1 army, and I feel like I don't see a way for Noisick and Whitecourt back into this game. Now look at that starting base. 82 villagers only for Whitecourt. He's got 30 on food still, but that's not necessarily enough for sustained paladin production. That's for sure. So... yo, Warrior, long-time supporter, I appreciate that a lot. Warrior has been around for a long time here. Holy moly, 17 months. Time flies, right? Anyways, this is not necessarily the best fight ever, so it's still quite a lot of skirms with tower shields. So you don't really want to throw away your manga dice against that. You could break in a couple of onagers. Now, but with that, I feel like they could definitely try and contest the south now for the trade. 73 villagers only for Whitecourt. It's not the biggest deal at the end game to have villager problems because trade is more important, but still 73 isn't necessarily a great number, especially when you're trying to go for paladins, and paladins are super duper expensive over here. So with that, you're gonna have Whitecourt trying to hold this hill as much as possible. Rumbai and Mangudai won't actually pierce through a wall of tower shield skirmishers, but what does is elephants. Oh, here it is. Here's the Rumbai. It looks like now they're focusing just pushing on this side. So Braven takes the risk and brings his entire army to the other side because it looks like Noisick has given up on pushing this one for now. And now it's Ferrari onagers. It is going to be Rumbai Light Cav. There is Hodach coming in for the elephants. So we're going to see Burmese elephants being used here. Look at that majestic trade for Brave, or Braven and FeAge. Decent trade as well for Noisick and Whitecourt, but most of this is actually belonging to Noisick. Whitecourt has some limited trade over here. He still has a huge army, and Bombard Tower defense will be coming in for Noisick. They want to turtle this out as much as possible, but they're just unable to hit the opponent's eco. I did mention that these fire ships are right now basically wasted population. They're not pop capped, so it's not the end of the world, but still not necessarily ideal. And once again, the skirmishers are very, very close together. Rumbai are amazing in those situations, so you could take some very, very good shots on those. Rumbai are also good at killing massed melee units like paladins, for example. Still not necessarily the most ideal fight for Braven over here with those Rumbai against the elite skirm. Bombard Towers still holding this one. Other side, we're gonna have traps from Braven coming out. It looks like Noisick just wants to drag this out with some Bombard Towers over here and bring his army on the other side. Where are the elephants though? That's what I'm looking at. Oh, here they are. I feel like that's the final nail in the coffin. When 20 elephants show up on this side, that's going to collapse immediately. Military numbers wise, now we have better numbers though for Whitecourt's team. So, onagers trying to take down the Bombard Tower over here. Paladins jumping on the top of them. And the onagers will definitely go down. Is this a comeback from Noisick and Whitecourt? Is this the last set of the day? Yes, it's the last set of the day. Exactly. But tomorrow we'll have even more. And we'll have teams like Kaposh and Bhakti, or Nili and Jordan, or Winchester and Classic Pro joining. So, the real big names, well, the really big names will only join next week in the group stage. But some big names will actually start coming in tomorrow and Sunday on the second round of qualifiers. So, Halberdiers will try to fight against the elephants here, but I mean, Byzantine Halberdiers that are lacking Blast Furnace, they will struggle quite badly against these elephants. And that's a lot of elephants here, man. That's an awful lot of elephants. Soon you can actually just cut into the opponent's base here because they're starting to run out of wood. Look at all these holes being chopped into the wood lines. Look at the right side though. Hussar. That's the problem for Whitecourt, he doesn't seem heavy cavalry. So, with that, onagers holding this narrow choke point. Apparently we have some capturage lags over here now that we're actually in post-imperial. And this is the real problem that the Noisick and Whitecourt are facing. That is a lot of elephants. Bombard Tower defense is going to be attempted, but how do you even stop that many elephants, to be honest? Yeah, Bombard Towers, Halberdiers will work, but how long? That's the question. Right side, we're gonna have Arbalest and Skirmisher once again. Onagers, Siege Onager is almost in, and this choke point is helping so much for FeAge. I did talk about that. It is going to be a lot more problematic for our yellow player if this is open. Siege Onager now firing down hills, so many of those Skirmishers will meet the Maker once again. Kid is actually probably crazy on the side of FeAge, indeed. 875 compared to 457. An excellent game. Overall, these are Ferrari Siege Onagers, by the way. So they have drill, they have the speed bonus. These are actually pretty damn tough. And now the traps are coming in to take down the Bombard Towers. Noisick is trying to hold off the elephants as long as possible, but unless there is something that immediately swings the battle back in his favor, he's gonna be in trouble. He's trying to get halberdiers out, but there's just a flood of elephants supported by Trebs. And now it is Braven starting the offensive, and the sides will switch now. It's gonna be FeAge just holding this crossing. And on the other side, we'll just have Braven pushing now with the elephants. And I would like to point out that this gold mine is still lamed over here, so Noisick never actually tried like freeing it up with, I don't know, a battering ram or something like that. On the south, we do have once again rams pushing in. Light Cav getting absolutely torn apart by onagers. Some more cavalry being picked off. But that's a lot of cavalry. Whitecourt has 69 army on the field. Very, very nice from him. The problem is that on the other side, we have about 30 elephants supported by Arambai coming in here. And you don't stop Burmese elephants, man. You just don't stop Burmese elephants. How would you even stop it? Like, Flaming Camel might be the best idea. So, with that, obviously Flaming Camel is not available here because no one is Tatars, but really, that flood of elephants is nearly impossible to stop with any unit, basically, other than Flaming Camels. There's gonna be a castle coming in here for FeAge, so he will actually go for a couple of Mangudai on this side to pick in, or pick off the halberdiers, and Trebs now taking down TCs. Indeed, it's a good question if he got Manipur Cavalry. I don't think he did. He got Hodach, but not Manipur Cavalry. Over here, and with that, is that true that Braven has 88 cards? Most likely. We can actually double click that. Indeed, Braven has 80 trade cards, FeAge has 71 as well, so Braven's resource income is actually crazy. He's got like 50 wheels and 80 trade cards. 46 on food, 15 on wood, and 80 on gold. Obviously, you need such an eco to spam elephants. So this is what I was talking about. If you go for this crazy eco, you want to spam an expensive unit. Elephants, paladins, whatsoever. So now it's Mangudai coming in, and suddenly Whitecourt isn't paying attention. His teammate is back to his own base trying to save his side. But now it is Whitecourt coming in with the paladins. Onagers will actually chop into the trade here, but it wasn't a perfect shot, and that means that this is still closed. Now Skirmishers trying to take down the Mangudai here, so the trade is still up. There is a couple of elephants desperately trying to do some raiding over here amidst some massive leg spikes, but Halberdier is now out for Noisick, and Noisick seems to have held on against the elephants. He just wanted to make sure that they don't get to the trade, so he went for 7 bombard towers here on the screen. Other side, however, now it is FeAge pushing, so I feel like no matter where we're looking, there is always at least one place where the Brazilians are the ones pushing. So, castle coming in here as well, and now FeAge is actually going to go for onagers on this side. Potentially even siege rams. So, one thing that is actually interesting to consider is that soon wood is going to be something to think about, as Whitecourt now calls the GG. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This was something special, let's say. Something very, very special. Long, grindy game. I feel like this is just the first round of the tournament, man. Just the first round. In fact, it's first round of qualifiers, and we're getting some very, very good games over here. It's not just about the fact that indeed these are not necessarily the expert players, and because of that they might struggle a little bit closing games out, but it seems fairly balanced between the two teams, and with that, FeAge and Braven take game number 3 over here on their own home map, and a very, very important home map, by the way. It was an extremely important home map, to be honest, because if they lost this one, they could have been in big trouble, especially because it would have been match point for the opponent. With that, we're going back to the lobby, and we'll take a look at the remaining maps and civilizations. Team Acropolis, and oh, look at that! Anonymous is gifting. Oh, no, it actually said Anonymous for a moment, but then it's Unexpected Podding. I appreciate that a lot. Unexpected Podding for gifted subs means a lot. So thank you so much for that. With that, we will have a 2-1 scoreline right now. Don't mind the alert being a little bit buggy over there. It sometimes happens. So, FeAge+Alive will be going to Team Acropolis now for fourth game, and the decider game could be on their own home map, which would be Regicide Fortress. We are left with Cumans, Mayans, Teutons, Goths for the Chileans, and the Brazilians have Franks, Tatars, Indians, and Spanish here. Spanish will be the Civ for Regicide Fortress, so we'll go Indians, and most likely Tatars. So it's gonna be Franks, Spanish, not really any Archer Civ in there, it's gonna be Conquistador Paladin or something like that. And for now, it's gonna be Team Acropolis, so let's get into game number 4. This set wasn't over, this was just game number 3. And this is a best of 5, not a best of 3. So there is more. And that is going to be on Team Acropolis with what looks to be a bit of a capture age issue, but should be fixable in a moment. So we'll jump into game number 4 in a matter of moments. Noisick and Whitecourt versus the Brazilians over here. FeAge+Alive have a 1-game advantage as they're hoping to get into the next round of the qualifiers, which will be the decider. Qualifiers. The map is Team Acropolis. The first time it can be seen in a Turpos tournament. It was used in 2v2 World Cup before, and we'll have Tatars for FeAge in yellow, and we're gonna have Indians for Braven in red, whereas on the right side we'll have Mayans for Whitecourt in green. Somewhat surprisingly, Mayans could have been a civilization for Regicide Fortress as well, and Goths for Noisick in blue, same for that. So either of these could have been a civilization for Regis Fortress, but it looks like we're gonna have Goths and Mayans. Now this is a tricky setup because here's the deal. What will Indians and Tatars do against the Gothic flood of Huskars? They don't have Cavalier to beat it with it. Indians don't have great champions, neither Tatars. Tatars actually have awful swordsman line because they're missing armor. So the Goths here could actually prove to be an extremely good civilization pick because they just have no real answer on the other side to Goths. Especially Huskars is what makes things quite difficult, I would say, for FeAge and Braven. Alright, so with that, we are going to have a fairly well-defendable base for FeAge and Braven. One thing that you have to consider is that they actually have a volable back. This is oftentimes not the case for this map, so with that, we're actually going to have walls over here, and that secures the back of your base. You have to wall way less with such a map spawn. This is a very, very lucky map spawn for the Brazilians. Oftentimes the map spawns like this, so you see you can't wall on these, so you have to wall all the way around here, and that takes quite a lot of effort. Whereas here, that isn't the case, so they can just wall to this wood line over here and save on this side. This is an extremely good map spawn for FeAge and Braven. One of the best map spawns I've ever seen on this map so far. With that being said, we are gonna have Braven playing with 4 on wood with Indians, and we also have 4 on wood for FeAge, so it looks like we're gonna have at least 1 fast castle over here, potentially a lot more, probably 2 FCs from both players. Other side, we're gonna have a Noisick playing with 4 on wood, so it's not gonna play scouts as well. Goths are a workable cavalry civ in Castle Age or so, but I don't think that this map justifies going for scouts at all. You can wall your base, and usually players do that, so it usually ends up being a fast castle type of a map over here. Now there is some extra boars in this valley in between the 2 players, or the 4 players in this case, and that means that if you're willing to, you can actually get some nice little extra food from that. You probably need to either block that with the scout to make sure that it doesn't actually get killed, or the alternative is that you actually go for loom, but if you want, you can actually bring in some extra boars for a little bit for extra food. Apparently no one actually bothers with that. We do have FeAge pushing in some deer for his base. He didn't find 2 of his sheep, or if he did, no, he didn't find it. He's just pushing deer right now He will find it just like in the previous game, but apparently he wants to have a nice little boost from that. With that, we are gonna have Noisick coming in here with the second board. He's actually waiting until the board runs beneath the TC. That was nice. If he kept shooting at it, especially with gods that do a lot more damage to boards, the board would have been killed over here. So the reason why he waited with that is because he wanted to have that board beneath the TC when he kills it. So it looks like we're gonna have double fast castle over here. The question is, what units are we going to see? Could be straight Huskars, to be honest, from Noisick. And yeah, this is the type of wall that he needs to make. It's nice that he actually finds a spot like that. There will be a stone that's safe, so he doesn't actually have to take this one if he doesn't want to. But definitely not ideal that your stone's back is actually open. With that being said, everybody is just going into Feudal Age here with... actually, what is Whitecourt up to? It seems like this is a Feudal Age boom into Castle Age here to me. Because it would be somewhat surprising if we went for archers. I don't think that archers alone would do much on this map because they can't get through walls. It would be awkward. If there is one player that goes for any army, that should be the scouts player, because fast feudal scouts, maybe you can catch your opponent before they finish walling, but by the time your archers get there, the walls will be up and you will not get through those. So I don't like the fast feudal here if this is actually for archers right away. If it's just for eco upgrades and then boom into Castle Age, that's fine. That makes some sense. One Voyager is being added to gold, so I think it could be a couple of archers. But still, this is going to be the eco-heavy approach. The idea is that you start massing archers in feudal, so you'd have a reasonable amount of archers by the time you reach Castle Age and get crossbows out really fast. Other side, Noisick is free on stone, so this is going to be a fast castle Huskar play immediately from him. So early Castle Age aggression could be the case for both players, and Braven is actually making a stable. I don't like that. I don't like this at all. What's the point of making a stable, especially for what is basically a 21 pop-up, or at least comparable to that timing? So it's not a fast feudal. By the time your scouts get in here, the opponent is gonna be what? Oh, wait, that's a range. For a moment I thought it's a barracks and he's trying to hide it from the opponent and try some double barracks ego shenanigans, but it seems like that's not the case. It's actually gonna be a range. He's hiding it, but honestly, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that it's gonna be a range. On the other side, we'll have 26 Voyagers up for FeAge. Should be good to go with that. It's not really a very tight build here. It's a naked fast castle with some heavy walling, so 26 should be doable, especially with Tatars. It is worth noting that he didn't actually have a single farm, so he is counting on the Tatars' longer lasting sheep here to carry him forward. And indeed, he's gonna be able to afford Castle Age here quite nicely. A bit low on wood though. So it looks like he's gonna have to delay that market. No, he doesn't have to delay the market. That's a range immediately. So it might just be crossbow opening. But at the end, it could be cav archers as well. I feel like in the long run it's gonna be cav archers. The question is if he's making a couple of archers to maybe just have a map control with them. Start moving forward, maybe go for the forward siege workshop. Bidax and Horsecolor in for our red and green players as well. And as you see, as I said, Whitecourt should just make a couple of archers, start slowly building up his numbers, and also increase his eco, especially that Horsecolor for farming for the archer build is nice to have. Other side, it looks like FeAge is gonna go double ranges, and he is not making anything. So it's gonna be cav archers. Yeah, with cav archers, how do they deal with gothic Huskars? That's the problem. Early Huskars can be converted, but still, they can overrun you very fast. There's a couple of scouts from Braven, but he's pretty much doing the same thing as well. Stop making scouts and just goes for the fast Castle Age here from Feudal with the eco upgrades already in. So that's fairly standard, I would say. So, at this point, Noisick does have quite a lot of idols. Just notice them as well. And at the end of the day, it's gonna be a couple of archers for Whitecourt as well. This is, I think, the right play. You just go one range, slowly mass archers, so you're not completely without military, and you have something to upgrade in Castle Age, but you go for an eco-heavy approach. Castle Age already in for Noisick, same for FeAge, and FeAge is gonna go for straight cav archers. So if you're Noisick, where do you drop your castle? You probably drop it somewhere around over here. Also, I would think that you actually add another layer of palisades behind these, because one way to lose games against cav archers is by letting them actually run through your base. This is the second time that our yellow player has been pinging this position, and I was looking at this one before. This is an excellent TC spot, because one thing that you have to consider is that in early Castle Age, your food eco isn't really great for sustaining 2 free TCs of Voyager production. But when you have actual hunt here close to this TC, it helps you bring in some extra food and sustain the Voyager production much easier. It's an interesting TC spot, to be honest, because it could have been over here instead. But still, not the end of the world for now. Free TCs coming in for Noisick. So it looks like he's going to delay that push with the Huskars. I think that's the right thing to do. You don't need to flood Huskars in early castle. You need to flood them in late Imperial, and this game definitely has the chance to go into Imperial. You will also have the extra sheep from Tatars over here, but you probably want to start with the hunt because it's a faster source of food, even though sheep is a bit more consistent. Third TC coming in as well for FeAge, and he's going for a couple of cav archers. So those are the first units that will be running around over here. Castle will come up over here, but the TC protects the gold mine. Still, these are the weak parts of the wall that you gotta be careful about. Cav archers will love to try to bash their way through here and then run to the back of the opponent's space here. So with that, we are gonna have the crossbows soon in for our green player as he's reaching Castle Age. And on the other side, it looks like we'll still just have a couple of scouts from Braven. Braven soon to reach Castle Age, but still, that's going to be a fairly late Castle Age for him. He's gonna have a strong eco behind that one, that's for sure, but he won't really have a lot of military on the field, and I feel like the problem is that their late game comp is just so bad. I'm not sure what they would do in Imperial. That I feel like they need to be aggressive with the push. So right now the scouts are trying to get through these walls. It appears that the cav archers did break through the first layer. Nice second layer over there from Noisick. And this is what I was referring to. You gotta double layer these, because that's what cav archers love to do. Just break through palisades and make sure that they can keep ready your eco. Best way to defend against cav archers is by going for stone walls. Obviously, that's not really a choice here for gods, but a double layer palisade could actually slow them down quite a bit. Alright, so at this point, Noisick is on free TCs, all on this hill though, so his wood control isn't amazing. I'm just noticing that he doesn't have good wood lines close to him. Like, this one is their best, and maybe this one, but after that, no real close gold or wood line over here for him. And also, look at these gold mines, they're out in the open. That doesn't help either. In the meanwhile, we'll have Braven dropping TC number 2 and 3 on neutral wood lines, one in the middle and one on the right side. So 3 TCs for both Brazilians. We only have a 1 TC build here for Whitecourt. Makes me wonder if he wants to play aggressive here with crossbows. So you see fast ballistics. It means that he wants to be able to push his opponent. It's not just for defense, he actually wants to legitimately push the opponent with some crossbows. I guess the idea is that he delays the opponents and be aggressive, force Braven and FeAge to defend, and after that, that gives a chance for Noisick to boom up, and he's gonna get a couple of Huskars out. With that, there is going to be one cav archer camping on this gold mine. I like that it denies a potential town center spot over here. Scouts will get picked off by the crossbows, and this TC is likely going up as well. Whitecourt can also take that hunt. This is a very nice TC spot. One boar, gold, and wood right next to it. So Huskar will just easily take down that cav archer. You see that it basically did nothing to the Huskar. These are still missing a lot of upgrades, but it seems like indeed Noisick is just gonna go for an eco-heavy approach. Thanks for the raid, Miguel. Hello, everybody. Miguel and Dogao will be playing in 2 pools as well in the main event. I'm looking forward to seeing them against the other duos. So we're gonna have another Brazilian duo, but we're actually observing the other Brazilian duo here, FeAge and Braven, also known as Alive, 2 long time Brazilian players. So we do have 3 TCs right now for FeAge playing in Tatars, Braven is playing Indians in red, other side, Mayans for Whitecourt in green, and Goths for Noisick in blue. So, with that, for now, it seems like Whitecourt is not going to move up to the archers. Raises the question of why did he go for ballistics then? Maybe he felt like there's going to be more pressure on them and then he realized, oh boy, it's actually not the case, so I can just start booming. Voyager count slightly in the favor of Whitecourt's team right now. And now it's slowly Huskars trickling in. Not an awful lot right now, but both Indians and Tatars were struggling as Huskars quite badly. Like, honestly, Kashyyyk hand cannon might be the best bet for FeAge and Braven, but it's extremely hard. With that, we are gonna have some additional TCs over here. Whitecourt dropping a TC to his friend's wood line. Over here will be on 3 TCs. That's gonna be TC number 5 for Noisick. So, as I said, this is the game plan for Whitecourt and Noisick. Whitecourt will just make sure that his teammate isn't getting annihilated by potential cav archers and some camos. And Noisick is just booming. It's full boom. He's got a couple of Huskars out, but reality is that this is just a 5 TC boom from him. He's up to 85 Voyagers already. Food income looking pretty decent, 34 already on food for him. Is laming allowed in tuples? Yes. So boar laming is allowed. We have seen some instances of that in the qualifiers. So boar laming is allowed. Same for sheep. You can delete straggler trees, but that's a rule in every tournament. With that being said, now the crossbows are quite slow overall, so they will struggle to catch up with the cav archers and the camos, and it looks like Whitecourt will have to run for his teammates TC here. Imperial Age coming in for Noisick, but mobility is going to be a problem for Whitecourt. They won't really be doing a lot of damage here. They might pick off 1 or 2 Voyagers, but they're going to cause some idle time. Still, you have to consider that if those cav archers don't start running away in this direction to the left, soon the crossbows will just trap them in there. So, oh boy, that's a disaster for FeAge. That's a disaster. He's going to fight downhills, or, well, he's gonna be downhills compared to those crossbows. So, he's just gonna run away, just get bloodlines for himself. So, with that, we are gonna have some villagers moving out here for Noisick. How many town centers does he want to build? We should start making a betting on this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make it 6. 6 TCs, Noisick, hello. Good 6 TC boom over here into Huskar Flood. I don't even think that he needs 6 TCs. Like, it would be nice to secure this wood line, as by the way, this part of the map is super empty. It's like a big empty nothingness. I like the outposts here for Whitecourt, by the way. Look at the vision that they are having. They want to make sure that they don't get raided. One of the things that you can do against cav archers is just have good vision on the map, because if you have that, you know where they're coming from, so you have time to react. Imperial Age coming in as well for Whitecourt. All the investment for FeAge and Braven into army isn't really paying off right now, because at the end of the day, these units are barely doing anything. Killing a couple of Voyagers, sure, but as things stand, all these cav archers will be traded to like 5 Voyagers, and that's a disaster. That's a disaster, man. Even if these crossbows get cleaned up, what matters is that that's anarchy. Soon it's going to be perfusion. And how do you stop Huskars with Indian camos, light cav, cav archer? Sure, you could say hand cannon, but hand cannon is slow moving. The good news for FeAge and Braven is that they actually delay these barracks, which means that there isn't really a lot of Huskars on the field right now. They also have dubious upgrades. It's just +1 defense and that's all. And now the camos and light cav will run inside, so Whitecourt is gonna have to catch these. Will be a little bit annoying for him to do. Huskars also apparently getting cancelled because Noisick is having some housing issues over here. So apparently this counterattack actually crippled, or at least delayed Noisick push here quite heavily. It's not going to stop it entirely, but it definitely caused some disruption. Still, 2 Imperial Age players against 2 Castle Age players, and even though the army numbers look decent for FeAge and Braven, it's actually just light cav, and neither light cav nor cav archers actually stop Huskars, and they are now starting to flood out. There is still no perfusion or any additional defense or attack upgrades. Here in this case, I would think that you actually prioritize the attack upgrade, because you want to just make sure that you get rid of those light cavs and cav archers as easily as possible. It doesn't matter. Like, elite Huskars have 8 base pierce armor, you don't need armor right now, you need actual damage output, so you can just start tearing things apart. And you also have Arblasts, by the way, from our green player, so Imperial is coming in for Braven and FeAge, but they are outnumbered in army a tiny bit. More important, the problem is that they will soon be very outnumbered with these Huskars flooding out, and they will just keep raiding and raiding. There is barracks on the right side from Noisick to start raiding this side, and I would expect the barracks being spammed everywhere. Nice Archer counterattack, by the way, here from FeAge. So there's gonna be a need for a couple of Huskars. I think these Huskars might not have Squires, because they're surprisingly low. Kashyyyk could be a reasonable tool to just deal with the Huskars for now, and it's fairly easy to mass Kashyyyk, so that could be an answer, honestly. But it depends on how many castles you have, and the answer is only one. So you don't really have a good Kashyyyk production, and I feel like the only reason why they're actually doing a cleanup here on those Huskars is because there isn't really enough Huskars on the field as of yet. Also, the Huskars have fairly underwhelming upgrades, only +1/+1 on them. But soon we'll have a couple of Huskars coming in on the right side as well. And it looks like it's gonna be Halberdier. That's the scary thing about gods. It can be a mixture of Huskar and Halberdier. Just flood them all over the map, and there is very, very little chance for Tatars to stop that one. Tatars is an archer and cavalry-based civilization. They have awful infantry, so they won't really be able to stop this one. Now it's going to be the Indian light cav with the 6 pierce armor jumping on top of the Arblasts. Here come the Huskars, though, from the back to clean this one up. At least they get to Imperial, which is a nice little achievement, so to say, and extremely important to survive in this game somehow. Still, Gods and Mayans should have a massive advantage over here. And as I said, soon Huskars will start falling in on the right side, and currently they're holding this one, but it's 15 Kashyyyk, and Kashyyyk aren't amazing against Huskars either. They're okay, but now that Halberdiers are in the party, this is going to be worse and worse, and it's just going to be a flood of infantry, a never-ending flood of infantry that's just going to keep raiding and raiding until eternity. So soon Halberdier comes in for Noisick. Noisick's gold count isn't actually impressing me. In fact, his overall eco isn't impressing me. He's 130 Voyagers, but doesn't seem like it. His upgrades are kind of low. He doesn't really have the numbers. So technically 130 Voyagers should mean a fully boomed Gothic player, but he's everything but fully boomed right now. I'm going for TC number, I don't know how much, probably something like 7, 8, or 9 or so. More Kashyyks from FeAge coming in. Soon Whitecourt is gonna have to start mixing in something himself. Like, potentially Arbalasts, potentially Eagles maybe even. Honestly, you could make a case for Eagles. Eldorado Eagles are not something that Kashyyyk can stop, to be honest. And you can just go play Huskar, Halberdier, Eldorado Eagle. Because Kashyyyk are a great unit, very, very cost efficient, but Eldorado Eagles are absolute beasts. They actually trade reasonably well against even Cavalier, and Kashyyyk is actually weaker in melee combat than Cavalier is. A couple of Huskars sent to the left, I like that quite a bit, denying trade from the opponent. And a castle drop is coming in here from Whitecourt. There is a perfusion for the Brax. That's an extremely important upgrade that was lacking so far for the blue player. It looks like we're gonna have a couple of Huskars coming in to try and deny this castle. It's gonna be 3 castles now, so you will soon get to a reasonable amount of Kashyyyk production. By the way, I would like to point out that Braven hasn't gotten Boso up until now. He's still not getting it. And we'll now have Halberdiers. Militias being queued up, I wonder if that's a mistake or that's actually a real intention to take him to champions. Kashyyyk will actually go for a counter raid here from FeAge and Braven, and honestly, they're taking over in score. Kashyyyk is a crazy unit. And I feel like the problem here is that this is not a Gothic flood. This is everything but a flood. They're missing the final attack upgrade. I think Squires is in now, but I feel like this flood is actually late compared to the fact that Noisick has been booming on 15 town centers for the entire game. Market's coming up here for FeAge. The position of this forest actually makes it a lot better, and indeed, this is more like a trickle than a flood. And with that, On the other side, we're gonna have a defensive castle for Braven. Braven is actually alive, so a very, very long time Brazilian player. He played in 2003, I believe, if the information on chat was correct. So he has been playing for a long, long, long time. Same for FeAge. So Kashyyyk are also doing some raiding over here. Voyager count is actually better for FeAge's team. And if you look at the overall population, don't tell me that FeAge and Braven are actually winning this. They're not supposed to. They are not supposed to win this game. Gods should just wreck everything here. Even Kashyyyk, you just flood Halberdiers. The problem here is that there is not really any army for Whitecourt. He's got a couple of arms, but I mean, we're looking at a post-Imperial scenario with 40 army from Mayans. That's a little bit underwhelming, I have to say. So, I was expecting more. And you could very well tech into El Dorado Eagles and just send 15 Eagles in here. They're somewhat redundant to the Huskars, so to say, so they do the same thing. They're fast, they're resistant to arrow fire, and they're good for raiding. But the Gothic player can just go Halberdier, and then you can actually flood El Dorado Eagles. Shatagni, a rarely seen but very underrated unique upgrade. Shatagni actually gives 1 extra range for hand cannoneers for the Indians. And the thing is that if you can't use the mobility advantage that you have for Noisick, then the hand cannoneers will be good. When I'm saying Eagles and Huskars, I refer to actual raids. So, hand cannoneers is good to defend when it's actually like a stalemate or a slow grind. But once you have actual raids from the infantry, then it's a completely different scenario. And you also have to keep in mind that the castles are so important for FeAge. If he loses the castles, he's not gonna have a Kashyyyk production, and without Kashyyyk, they don't have any chance against the gods here right now. So we're gonna have the first castle going down to 4 trebs, and now it's plumed archers for Whitecourt, so he appears with a lot of plumes. And hand cannons will be picked apart by plumed archers. Kashyyyk are actually pretty resistant to arrow fire, so it's not easy to kill Kashyyyk with plumed archers. They have 5 pierce armor. So with that, we are gonna have plumed archers slowly marching in here. And there is no +4 defense on those Kashyyyk. They are elite with +4 attack. But now it seems like Noisick and Whitecourt are slowly grinding forward. Arbalest here picking off Voyagers actually matters quite a lot. So that starts becoming a concern. And FeAge only has 2 castles. You can see that he wants to make Kashyyyk, but he's got a production bottleneck over here. Quite well. So with that, Hussar now in for Braven. Those are Indian Hussars, so they have like 1 million pierce armor. Sultans even. So the second unique tech for Indians over here. Either of these techs are rare to see in competitive Age Vampires, especially Shatagni is super rare because it's very, very situational. It's a good upgrade, but it's super situational. So it looks like now we have a breakthrough on the left though. Siege Tower! Okay, I don't like rewinding things unless it's a big boom, but I think this is actually worth a quick rewind over here. Siege Tower from Noisick to actually land those Arbalest on the other side. Nice quick walls, by the way, from FeAge to keep these guys around, but there is actually 2 barracks coming in here from Noisick, and spamming Huskars into the opponent's trade like this would be an absolute dream. Quick walls are actually up for Noisick, so this Kashyyyk can't actually kill the Voyagers. And the barracks will most likely go up. Other side, castle on the hill. Remember that this is Tatars, so whatever they do, they can do a very, very nice hold over here on this hill. Hand cannoners firing down hills as well, picking apart the infantry, but there is no meat shield in front of those hand cannoners, and now the plumed archers will dive in and try to snipe the hand cannoners. Traps being set up to shell that castle over there. The barracks actually is denied indeed. It looks like the Kashyyyk broke through the walls before the barracks are finished, but still the siege tower is over there, so there's a chance to finish that. More villagers being pulled to make this castle, and this starts to turn into a doubt castle with all those villagers from Braven trickling in. Random trade card joins the fun as well, but this castle isn't going up, and suddenly it's 150 army. This is the flood that I was talking about, if you want to see. Flood of plumed archers, flood of halberdiers and champions, and we got a game for us over here. FeAge's team loses game number 4, and we're going to the decider game. What a better way to end the day. Whitecourt's team versus FeAge's team. they will go to Regicide Fortress to decide this set, a map that often yields long, lengthy, grindy games. We're going to game number 5. There's only 2 civs left for each team, so we'll see Cumans and the Teutons. An interesting mismatch of civilizations, so to say, now that I think about that. Cumans and Teutons. Both of these are cavalry civs, so it gotta be Kipchak, or the alternative is that you go like cavalry and then Hab and Siege. Alternative, or the other side, is gonna be Franks and Spanish, also redundant civilizations. So basically we have 4 heavy cavalry civs remaining in this one. Franks and Teutons will most likely be the cavalry civs. And Spanish and Cumans will do probably Conquistadors and Kipchak. So we're going into game number 5 on Regicide Fortress, the final home map of FeAge+Alive. Here we go. It is going to be Whitecourt with Cumans in green, going for probably a fast feudal and into Castle Age with 2 TCs already. We have Teutons for Noisick in blue, going for fast mill. We'll have Braven on the right side as Spanish in red. But finally, FeAge in the north in yellow. So that's gonna be our 4 civilizations left for this game. We'll have the first board being lured in quite fast over here. Noisick is actually going to do some scouting with the king. So one thing that's different from standard Regicide Fortress is that this map doesn't spawn with towers, so it actually invites some more aggressive gameplay from the players. It also means that you can't hide your king inside a tower. Oftentimes, you actually hide your king inside a tower instead of a castle, so you don't accidentally ungarrison the king from the castle. But in this case, you have to hide it inside your castle or somewhere else potentially. So with that, we're most likely going to see Conquistadors trying to do some damage. These Conquistadors won't be able to do much over here. The base of Whitecourt is actually looking really, really good. On the other side, we're gonna have Noisick. He's gonna lose the king. Which king? You gotta be careful with your kings. Before Hera was a big streamer and he had like 200 viewers, his most watched clip was Hera losing the king on Regicide Fortress. That was 2 pools 1 qualifiers. Hera and MBL played in this map. At that time, Hera was a backup to MBL and Nikov in 2 pools 1 qualifiers. It was against ROR. I think Kamigawa and Ganji were the players. I remember, first game was MBL and Nikov winning, and then Hera steps in. Hera stepped in, replacing Nikov, and what happened is that he scouted the king, which is fairly standard. The king is fast moving, there is not really a lot of military on the field, and you can do some scouting with it. But what happened is that he accidentally got his king to the back of his opponent's base, where the opponent just made gates on the 2 sides and sent in 1 scout. And that king was killed by 1 scout. If you have seen the trailer for 2 pools, that's the clip from Hera's POV in there. That's where we start. I was trying to look for a couple of clips from 2 pools 1 for the trailer of 2 pools 2, and that's the clip where it starts with. He lost the king. The voiceover is priceless. So if you have the chance, you gotta watch that clip. Because I remember I was casting it with Ornlu, and what happened is that I saw MBL moving forward for a tower rush, and I was like, MBL is tower rushing on Regicide Fortress, what? And then I realized that, oh boy, it is actually the king being lost by Hera, and the scout in Feudal Age is moving faster than the king, so Hera could slowly lose that king. And I remember that sentence that I don't even know what Nikov said, because Nikov was on voice chat with the other 2 guys as well, and Hera's response was like, Nikov, I don't need your negativity in my life. And by the way, after that, we had Islands as the next game, or Team Islands to be precise, and Hera was benched. So I think that was the only game that Hera played in that series. They won 3-1 at the end, but the only game they lost was where Hera lost his king. And obviously if you lose your king, you automatically get defeated. And that means that 1v2 your teammate can't win. Where can you find that clip? Hera's channel. Hera has his POV. I think my channel also has that, but that's my cast about it. But if you really want the good voiceover, just go to Hera's channel, and you don't even have to search lots, so it's probably still top 20 in his clips. I think it's called something like Hera loses his king or so. So, really the change of times. Tupo's one was 2019, and Hera was a backup to Nikov, and now he's actually probably stronger than both of those players, and he's teaming up with Leary for Tupo's 2. Leary didn't play in Tupo's 1, and with this little bit of nostalgia, we actually spent the time in Dark Age, so we can go into Feudal and even Castle Age. You already have the second TC up for Whitecourt, so it looks like Noisick is actually running into his teammate's base with his little king. He's gotta be careful about these, because as long as it is possible, what are those kings doing? What is this party, boys? What is this party? You do realize that in Dark Age the kings are faster than scouts, but in Feudal Age that's not longer true. So scouts can actually start killing kings in Feudal Age, and I don't know what is this, but Whitecourt apparently wants to take a look at his opponent's base, or his teammate's base, but it was like, hey, you wanna come over? Because that's basically how it felt. Noisick just ran into the opponent or his teammate's base, and it's like, now Whitecourt is running in there. Okay, what's the plan? They're probably having a party over here. For whatever reason, Whitecourt is sending his king in here. I have no idea why. I have absolutely no legitimate idea why they're making a party over here, but this just guarantees that if Noisick gets pushed, they will lose both kings. And yeah, on a decider game, they just run around with their kings in Feudal on the outside. So, with that, we'll have Conquistadors coming in a matter of seconds, I believe, for a Braven. So, here come the Conks. Here come the Conks. This king is just overseeing the peasants building the town center over here, turning his turning his head left, turning his head right, just observing his kingdom over here. And it looks like it's not gonna be a Conquistador play. This is going to be a free TC play overall, and it looks like it's gonna be free TC boom from both players. And we'll have 2 TCs for Noisick for now. He is apparently going to have a party inside this castle. It makes some sense. I'm starting to get that. I'm starting to get why the castle of Noisick will be holding both kings. I did mention that you don't want to garrison into the castle that you use to make unique units. So I would think that this is gonna be Kipchak in the long run from Whitecourt, and he doesn't want to risk accidentally ungarrisoning his king. So he sends it to his teammate's castle, because you will never make Teutonic Knights unless you have gone insane in 2v2. So there should be no risk of these guys being ungarrisoned. The last 2 castle age is gonna be Whitecourt, but he's already on 2 TCs. They have a fairly confident Voyager with 45 Voyagers already for Whitecourt, so his Feudal Age eco is pretty damn strong right now. Fletching coming in, so it's gonna be Kipchak. It is gonna be Kipchak from him. Other side, it's gonna be free TCs for FeAge, free TCs as well for Braven. The question is, what are they doing in Imperial? Because that's what I don't have an answer for. It could be Haberdire and Siege from either of these players, but I don't think double Paladin should work, especially against Teutons. Teutons will have Haberdires with insane melee armor. In fact, Teutons should go for Hab and Siege. So, I think, do you know what's gonna happen? I think it might be throwing Axemen from FeAge. Because you see that you are right next to the Teuton player, and the Teuton player will actually go for Hab and Siege. So you go throwing Axemen. Throwing Axemen Bombard Cannon could be the composition here for FeAge, and then Paladin from Braven. So, with that, it looks like we have a relic collection effort over here from Noisick, picking up relic number 2 already for himself. And we'll have relic number 3 coming in as well. This is actually a very, very nice effort to take those uncontested relics. Gives a nice little easy boost to your economy early on. 3 or 4 relics, trickling in gold ever since you start Castle Age is always a nice thing to have. It feels very, very underrated, but it's actually crazy strong. So, with that, we are gonna have Monk picking up relics here, and this could be 4 or 5 relics easily. There goes the first Monk over there. Braven finds the scout and picks off the villager, which is actually a Monk. I'm just potato after 9 hours of casting. It's gonna be 40 Sisva for Noisick, crazy tooth and boom. And you did notice that Braven and FeAge actually took 2 very, very closed maps for their home maps. They were successful on Forest Pond. We'll see if they will be successful on this map right now. This is anyone's series still. Villager count is dead even, so the Kumans can't really get a big advantage from the extra TC in this stage. And indeed, we have Kipchak coming in. So it's gonna be most likely either Kipchak Paladin with Teutons, or the alternative, as we have Braven losing that scout over here. One thing he didn't account for, even though he took the hill, is that his opponent has extra melee armor on that scout because of Teutons, and now Monk actually tries to convert that scout over there. It is already 2 relics, and I think the third one is somewhere around as well. Indeed, here comes the third one for Noisick. So it's gonna be a couple of Kipchak out. So it's either Kipchak Paladin or Kipchak Hub and Siege. Probably Kipchak Paladin makes more sense. And in that case, it could be maybe Skirms from the Spanish player and then Paladins from the Franks. But you see that FeAge is actually 10 on stone. He's expecting Hub and Siege from the Teutons, so he's actually taking into throwing Axemen. It's gonna be a straight throwing Axemen play from him. Conquistadors are now out, so we might end up with some on the field actually, but I feel like that's just a response to the Kipchak. I don't think that Braven wanted to go for Conquistadors. In the long run he might need to, because they don't really have a ranged component to their army currently, so he might be forced to go Conks. Just adding villagers to stone, he can soon afford a castle. Imperial Age is a distant dream for everybody, but Whitecourt actually is getting close to creaking up to Imperial here. And one of the nice things with this is that you already have the castle, so you don't even need the buildings. You don't need to construct any buildings on Regicide Fortress to click up to Imperial, because you have your castle. Second castle out here. Both FeAge and Noisick are actually walling off certain parts of the map for themselves. This is going to be an interesting debate. Who is going to be using which corner for trade? As things stand with these walls, I feel like FeAge and Braven will use this corner, and this will be the corner for Noisick and Whitecourt. With that, we do have Imperial Age coming in for both players on Whitecourt's team. Only one Imperial Age for FeAge's team, and Braven's food count is looking somewhat underwhelming. He wants a second castle somewhere around over here, I believe. But he's gonna be delayed to Imperial quite heavily. He's 370 food right now, 37 on food, so not impossibly far away. But he's gonna be at least a minute behind. There is the Hub and Siege. So it's gonna be Kipchak, Hub, and most likely Onager, because there is no Siege Ram from Noisick's Teutons. So it's most likely Siege Onager with Ironclad. And then Halberdier. Indeed, here comes the Pikeman upgrade. So, with that, we're gonna have Whitecourt coming in here with a couple of Kipchak. The Kipchak do have questionable upgrades, no bloodlines whatsoever. And with that, there's gonna be 2 castles worth of Kipchak production. Imperial Age just clicked up for Braven. And that's going to be quite late, to be honest, because he's going to be up against 2 castles worth of threat production. So keeping his castle alive over here is going to be quite challenging. And it looks like FeAge actually wants to go for the flood of cavalry. So it is going to be +2 defense, and they end up being Conquistador and Paladin. The problem is that I like Hub and Siege and Kipchak a little bit more than Conquistador Paladin, especially because for Conks you need castles, and as things stand, these castles won't really be available for Braven, while Whitecourt will most likely be able to keep his castles alive. Still missing bloodlines on those Kipchak. That hurts quite badly, because the extra HP is really important for Kipchak. They're super fragile without. So conscription coming in right now for both players on our cold color team. Kipchak's running around trying to find a couple of villagers to kill. One thing that you have to consider though is what happens if you get overrun by knights from Franks. Cavalier already coming in, no chivalry for FeAge. On the other side, we will have pikemen, now halberdier coming in, but the numbers aren't impressing and there is no siege component. So technically, throwing axemen is still a thing, and indeed here come the throwing axemen. So with that, we are gonna have Braven coming in here with a battering rams as well. So it's probably gonna be kept rams, but the thing is that Kipchak actually melt rams over here. Kipchak take down the conquistadors. These are still missing the HP, which actually starts to tilt me quite heavily. I hope Whitecourt knows that Bloodlines is important for Kipchak, because he's getting all the upgrades, Thumbring, defense upgrade, chemistry, whatsoever, but come on, man. You're gonna have Bloodlines over here, Stone Walls coming in from our blue player over here, traps being set up to shell that castle. Still, we have Imperial Age from Braven, and now he's taking into infantry armor, so he will actually play Halberdier Paladin versus Kipchak Halberdier is gonna be the name of the game. But there will be throwing axemen against the Halberdiers. This is still tricky. 69 army though, against 42. And for whatever reason, we have a villager here. Can we just talk about this villager? Doesn't matter anymore, he just got shot by conquistadors. But there was a villager beating up that castle over there. Parthian tactics coming in. Still, it tilts the hell out of me that there is no bloodlines on those Kipchak. They're so fragile without those. Castle goes down, there is going to be halberdiers from Braven. But the real question is now, how are you going to hold off those Kipchak? Paladin might still do the trick, because especially if those Kipchak are so weak in terms of HP. Now, it looks like Kipchak will try to pick off the throwing axeman. Nice fight over there, very nice fight for the Chileans. And with that, all the throwing axemen are gone. Halberdiers will once again be able to kill the Paladins. Also Halberdiers moving in from Noisick, taking out the traps. Couple of battering rams desperately pushing that castle, but I mean, 3 villagers will take this down. And right now, Braven is at 12 military, his teammate is 21. Supremacy! Are we going to see bombard towers here? Because otherwise Supremacy doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's a super fast Supremacy as well from our red player. So, no Paladin just yet for FeAge. He's got +4 defense, no attack upgrade. We have Ironclad for Noisick siege weapons, which will be siege onagers soon. And what is the plan with those Supremacy villagers? He's running back home over here. That's gonna be skirmishers. It's gonna be skirms because it is going to be reasonable against the Kipchak. It's going to be reasonable against the Halberdier. Onagers will cause a lot of problems for them. Elite Kipchak before Bloodlines. I legitimately think that Whitecourt either just forgot about Bloodlines or he doesn't know it affects Kipchak. Because at this point it's very tilting that he isn't getting a very important upgrade. That extra HP matters so much for Kipchak. However, they are still winning, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think that he has a stable, so that's probably the reason why he isn't making it, but I mean, you're post-imp, so you might as well make a stable and get Bloodlines, not the end of the world. Elite Kipchak is still in, but 45 HP still. The problem is army numbers, 97 to 64. That's a lot of cavalry though, so you always gotta be careful with Frank's Paladins overrunning you, but there is no Paladin, only Cavalier. And really, both of these teams had very mismatched civilizations. Franks, Spanish don't really line up well together on any map, not even this one, as the Cavalier are not trying to snipe the Onagers but will be unsuccessful. Paladin is on the way for Braven, but now we have Kipchak coming in for raid, Elite Skirm almost in for Braven, so they see it's gonna be Elite Skirms, but I mean, Onagers actually land some nice hits given the circumstances, and they have Ironclad, which means that they suffer from a lot less melee damage. So you see that at this point, it's gonna be like a couple of Paladins, or soon-to-be Paladins, traded to one Onager. Nice moves, by the way, from FeAge. Looping around, trying to pick off the Onagers, but really Ironclad helps quite a bit here. And one thing that we didn't talk about is, look at these outposts and this fortified wall over here. Noisick just logs down the northern part of the map for trade. And it looks like Braven wants to do the exact same thing, try to lock down the left for trade, but there's already stables coming up for Whitecourt to deny that one. I feel like after a very, very good performance from FeAge and Braven in the Arabia game, very, very good performance in the Forest Pond game, it looks like they will be exiting the tournament here because currently their unit composition is far behind compared to the opponents. Bloodlines, better late than never for our green player. I would like to point out that Braven doesn't have Bozo either. It seems like the Brazilians might have gotten tired a little bit because I feel like they played better in the first 2 or 3 games. And with that, now they're getting overrun by better civilizations. I feel like the draft at the end seems to be better for Whitecourt+Noisick as well. They were able to match their civilizations a lot better. And I think the Chileans are getting very close to getting to the next round over here. So, with that, we're gonna have Elite Skirms here trying to hold this one. They won't give up on this easily, that's for sure. You have seen that the Brazilians are fighting until the end. That's a late Chivalry over there for FeAge. At this point, Chivalry might not even mean a lot. Like, it's still good for production, but that's basically it. All these now jump on top of those Kipchak. But they're up against so many Cuman Mercenaries, guys, and Crenulations. How many unique techs we have seen in this one? Supremacy, Shatagni, Sultans. Now it is Cuman Mercenaries, so technically Noisick could actually make 10 Kipchak himself if he wanted to. So, Brazilians will not give up on this easily, that's for sure. But they don't seem to have trade currently available. We're just with Supremacy trying to knock down these workshops over here. The walls are set, but you still gotta clean this up if you want to have any sort of trade rolling for you. Kipchaks will also be amazing at raiding trade in this one. Indeed, I want to see 2-ton Kipchaks, I'm sorry. We have to see that. But I think the extra Kipchaks... Oh, bad caster, talking too much, not actually seeing the action. Here is your action, boys. Here is your action, and all the hope that Braven had in actually taking a good fight, and then the capture age freezes. But don't even care about that. Capture age, please come back to life. Okay? He decided to come back to life, so he's listening to the good word. Still, there is some paladins on the field, but there is way too many Halberdiers. These Halberdiers have 5 melee armor because of Teutons as well. Teutons are just an excellent closed map civilization. I don't even know which of these civs. Now that I think about that, which of these civs were the pool to? It was Teutons, right? Giving Teutons to the opponent when Regicide Fortress in the map pool feels somewhat suicidal. I mean, it's still better to give them Huns, let's say, and have them play Huns on Arabia, than it is to give them Teutons and let them have Teutons or Slavs on a map like Regicide Fortress, which Slavs and Teutons just love this map. It's slow, grindy, excellent for hub and siege play, and that's what these civs excel in overall. Teutons could have been used elsewhere as well because they are generally a good cavalry civilization, but really, I feel like Teutons being left to the final map is a massive advantage for Whitecourt and Noisick, and you see that there is still stables up here, so Whitecourt just keeps adding these stables here, adds a couple of cavalry to make sure there is no trade. So, with that, FeAge calls the GG, and there was a moment in this set where FeAge's team was leading. After the Forest Pond game, they were leading 2-1, but it looks like Whitecourt's team actually edges out the victory here, slightly outdrafting the opponent, and they, I think, very well deserved the victory over here. Fell short on Arabia and Forest Pond, but overall played really well. This was one of the better qualifiers overall, and I'm super happy that we have this high level of qualifiers already. This is oftentimes in big tournaments qualifiers, there is a lot of stomps, and from my experience, even the first round, we didn't have that big of a stomp. So, it looks like Whitecourt+Noisick, it was small details deciding it, what civs are left, how do you actually draft your civs, and at the end, Noisick and Whitecourt move to the next round. The Chileans will be playing in the deciders tomorrow or Sunday.